Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rob Has a Podcast. I'm your host, Taran Armstrong, and I am here today with the final wrap-up post-season roundtable for Big Brother Canada 9. This is the podcast where we talk about everything from the feeds, from the episodes, from everything on the season, and we're going to cap off as much of it as we can, put it into context, rate the players, do as much as we can here. And talk it all through. With me to do so, of course, is Melissa. How you doing, Melissa?
I'm doing great. I am very excited to talk through this season and, talk about all the different players and how this season compares to other seasons. And I was thinking about it today and trying to figure out my thoughts, and I'm a little jumbled. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think.
Yes. Also joining us to help wrap up the season is Phil. How you doing, Phil?
What's up, Taran? It's great to be here talking with both of you guys. I'm a big fan of course, the strategy and the gameplay and everything like that. But another reason why I love these shows is because of the story. So whenever we're talking about, the season as it's going on, I'm always kind of apprehensive just because I'm not as sure as how the story's going to end. But now that we have a complete third act finished, we're going to be able to actually contextualize everything, which is something I always love to do. I love context. So I'm very excited to break it all down with both of you guys.
Yes, very good. All right, well, we are here again to talk through everything from the season, and that includes rating the players, giving a final rating on the players, trying to sort of put Ty's win in context, in place, the season in place. I sent out a survey where you guys can answer all of those questions. There's still time to fill it out. If you want, you can find it on Twitter at Armstrong Taran. I tweeted it out, and we're gonna go through it all. But Phil, I haven't heard from you since the season ended. What have your thoughts been on the ending of the season?
I'm just super happy that we got our first, black winner of North American BB or just North American BB, which is super exciting. And I thought Ty played a really solid game. It's not like, of course, one of the great Big Brother games. I wouldn't even say it's like one of the best Big Brother Canada games, but it's a very solid game. It's one I was very excited about, and during the finale, he was definitely the person I was rooting for the most. So I came away very happy. I would have much rather actually seen like Kiefer win, but of course that he got cut at the final four. So I was totally happy with Ty winning, and I thought it was a great ending for a really good season.
Yeah, Melissa, have you had any other thoughts since the season ended?
Not particularly. I don't think really my opinion has changed. I kind of wanted to ask you about that because I watched some of the interviews, but I felt like I didn't really get any real like new information from them. It was kind of just like, yeah, I'm really happy I won, or yeah, I'm glad I got as far as I did, or whatever. But like, I didn't really feel like there was any new information aside from, I guess, like the quote unquote reveal that like Tara was saying people wish they had changed their votes, which like, I don't know if I believe that. Like until people are coming forward and saying like, I wish I had voted for someone else and like actually tying their name to it, like then maybe I'll believe that. But like, I don't know. I don't, did you guys learn any new information since the finale?
I mean, not particularly. I think that we heard a little bit from the jury. We heard a little bit more in terms of, I think Kiefer confirmed again that his vote did come down to the final HOH win. It seems to me like that is what we were thinking prior to the final two. And it seems like it may in fact be the case that that Ty's win did come down to that win in the final three, which again, like it's easy for people to say that before, it's easy for people to say that after. I do think that Brayden performed very well in the questions. Apparently, I think that if anyone were to have said they regretted voting for Ty over Brayden, it probably would have been Victoria, considering that she was the one who was like, I don't know what to do at the very end. But I also think that, you have to take into consideration Tara is somebody that had voted for Brayden and that probably was like, why didn't anyone else vote for Brayden? And, people are people pleasers, and they're a lot more likely to tell Tara like, oh, well, maybe I should have done that. And then, who knows exactly what it is. Again, we haven't had a chance to talk to the jurors quite yet. But either way, we are here to talk through this win.
Did we get confirmation at all from anyone that when Kiefer turned to Victoria during the right before the votes, did he say Tyshawn or Tashawn or do we know
Kiefer
what
did
he
say
said?
Ty to Vic. Yes,
that's been confirmed.
I think so.
Yeah, I will just say about the whole Ty win and the jury roundtable, them kind of talking about how we're going to determine the winner based off of just who wins the final HOH. I do think that actually was the case, just from hearing what some people have said postseason and just from watching the finale and actually their conversation. And I don't know, I personally kind of find that a little bit disappointing because, I personally am, I obviously the challenges and the competitions do have some kind of course they matter, but I don't want them to totally be the end all be all reason why someone should win the game. I think should be more focused on a social and strategic game. So I'm very curious, and I don't really know the answer of, maybe you guys do, of if for some reason Braden took Ty, if the tables would totally change and if Braden would actually come out the winner. I would hope that that's not the case, but also just knowing the jury, I'm not actually sure, which I think is kind of disappointing, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's going to be something that's probably hard to really nail down and determine exactly what it would have been, because the longer they have to sort of understand public sentiment, the less likely they are to be 100% honest about what they would have done. Nor is it super possible to be 100% honest about what they would have done, because sometimes you might think, oh well, maybe I would have done this, but then maybe that's not what you would have done, or maybe in hindsight, now that Ty has won, and you're just I probably wouldn't have, or it's so hard to judge. So I do think, like you said, I think that the most amount of evidence that we have points toward they probably did decide it on that final HOH, but that does not necessarily mean that that Braden definitely would have won. I think it would have been closer with Braden winning that final HOH, but I do think he would have had a good chance at the very, very least. So something to take into consideration a little bit here when looking at Ty's game, perhaps maybe when looking at Braden's game. But it's definitely, definitely representative of the season at large, I think.
Yeah. Also, for all the people saying oh, I can't believe you guys on this podcast thought that Jed wouldn't vote for Ty. You guys are crazy, because he's been saying that he, of course, would vote for Ty no matter what, because he's his boy. And it's okay, but yeah, but in every single interview he gave, when going into the jury house, he ranked Ty last on his list, or near the end, and was saying he was going to vote for other people instead of Ty. So we're not crazy for thinking that. People we got that from somewhere.
It's blatantly not true that he was always going to vote for Ty, right, considering he said many times to many people, I'm not voting for Ty.
And we literally never, at least I can't remember us ever being there's not a single chance in the world that Jed votes for Ty at this point. You never know what people are going to do. We can only go off of what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, newsflash, bitter jurors exist. They are a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happened before in Big Brother, but yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So here we are. Ty with a win 6-1. And I think it really helped cap off the season in a wonderful way. I feel like the season was so much fun. And when it comes to the ratings, I'm actually interested to see the comparison of potentially what made it so fun, because we often, we want players that are good players that are playing hard. That was not necessarily what we got this season, but what we did get, I'm anticipating, is a lot of relatively even players who are all playing hard. Maybe they weren't the highest level of game players, but they were relatively consistent within each other in terms of how we saw them as game players. And so that's what I want to look at here as we give our final ratings, because you look at the past season. So we have done I think 5 seasons. This is our 5th season of rating all the players throughout the entire thing, because Big Brother Canada 8. didn't end up working. And so through those other 4 seasons, Big Brother 20 was one side doing really well, one side doing really poorly. Big Brother Canada 7 was a couple of people doing really well and everyone else doing really poorly. Big Brother 21 was a lot of people doing really poorly and occasionally some people doing well. And then Big Brother 22 was half the house doing really well and half the house doing really poorly until it kept cutting itself in half until it was just Cody. And Big Brother Canada 9 has been everybody doing poorly all the time. And so I'm very curious to see just like the difference in the variety of ratings, and I'm wondering if a smaller range, a standard deviation range of ratings may actually make for more exciting seasons.
I mean,
I'm also wondering if I'm like I was like working on my ratings earlier, and I feel like I might have been like, I want to know what I rated for the other seasons, because I'm wondering if maybe I was just like, okay, like in the grand scheme of things, if I'm going to take like this small group of people and like spread them out over this like 1 to 10 scale, and I don't think I should have done that. I probably should have like just kept it as to like what they actually are. So now I'm wondering if I need to fix my ratings a little bit.
Well, yeah,
I feel like some of these players are not what I'm rating them, so I don't know.
I think it's really interesting of like, do you rate players like based off of just how they're doing in this particular season? And like, there's great players in the season and there's bad people who played in this season, or do you rank them based off of just all Big Brother players in general and like stack them up with all of them? So yeah, I think that's really interesting. I'm excited to break it down.
Yeah. And it's also like, do we feel like the bad gameplay that we saw over the course of the season, do we feel like it fed on itself? In the sense that like take a player, say Ty from this season, put him in a Big Brother 22 or a Big Brother 17 or something like that, maybe a Big Brother Canada 6. Does he make the same kind of mistakes if he's not surrounded by other people who are also making all those kinds? Because you tend to learn and emulate from the people around you, especially on your first season. So taking that into account, or do you look at it from the other perspective and you say, well, if a player couldn't do well on this season, how are they going to fare against better competition? So there's a lot to consider here, and I definitely did go back and look at my previous ratings to help me get a little bit of context.
Yeah,
I wish I knew mine. Honestly, I'm also wondering like if these are rankings or ratings of players like, if we pretended like they never played the season and just dropped them as a person into a random season, or is it like it's them playing in another season? Because like, would they have learned from their mistakes? Like, do we take that into account? Like, I'm thinking specifically of like Jed. Like, does he go into this new season having the experience of not playing the veto on himself and like regretting that, or does he like go into this like fresh, like just as a person?
So I think generally what we try to do is and this is a good setup for the explanation for these ratings. These ratings are different than the ratings we do during the season. So these ratings are based off of our overall view of them as a player, meaning if we took them and dropped them in 1,000 random seasons, how often would they win? And with that in mind, you also have to factor in sometimes they're going to be asked back, right? Sometimes they'll get to play again, but most of the time players are only going to get to play once. So I factor their first game much more heavily than their second game. But their potential for future seasons is also something that I think should be considered, just not quite as heavily as their first season performance. But that doesn't mean that we are stuck to Big Brother Canada 9. We can imagine that, say, Jed was dropped into Big Brother Canada 6. What would that have been like given what we saw from him in Big Brother Canada 9? That's very difficult to do, obviously. So, what we try to do is just like look at the decisions that they made with the information that they had. Were they able to get information? What was it like in the season? What was their competition like? All kinds of stuff like that. This is also obviously very imprecise and very subjective. So, we are trying to put numbers on something that is incomprehensible and completely absurd to try to put numbers on, but we have fun with it.
Yeah. For the way I kind of look at like how I'm going to just do my rating so I can explain that is just like I kind of look at these players in this current form. Like I'll look at Cody in Big Brother 22 and Cody in Big Brother 16 as like two different players. Like I'd rate them differently. I will give one like a 9 and give one like a 7. So for how I rate Ty is wouldn't be based off of how I think Ty would do in like on an all-star season or something like that. But if this version of Ty, like you're saying, Taran, was playing on a lot of different seasons, or just this version of Ty in this complete form, how do I think he is as a player? That's just how I kind of feel about it.
Yeah. We can get straight into the ratings. There are also some other things to go over with the questions that I asked. Maybe we can get some of the other ones out of the way first. For example, we have the 3 questions. How do you rate the episodes, the feeds, and the season as a whole? Meaning both the episodes and the feeds, and I guess your overall experience with it. Interestingly, this season, and I feel like this is definitely usually the inverse, the episodes got a 7.2 average rating. The feeds a 6.3, which I'm not sure that I agree with. I feel like the episodes were not always on par with what we were seeing on the feeds throughout the season. But I think that perhaps some of the low ratings for the feeds maybe came from a little bit of that recency bias of they were out so much, and that statistic that they were out like over 50% of the time basically is like, well, that was terrible. But I would still say that my overall enjoyment of the feeds was still greater than my enjoyment of the episodes.
Yeah, for sure. Like for me, I mean, I don't know. I think like Big Brother Canada feeds are always out all the time. Like this isn't like something that's brand new. You know what I mean? So of course, they're going to be out for a little bit, but I don't think that should totally, besmirch the actual, how we feel about the feeds. Because I personally think that I was totally glued to the feeds, especially in the beginning. But even as the season went on, I was totally immersed and glued to the gameplay. While I don't know, I personally thought the season. I mean, like in terms of the episodes, they were good and they portrayed everything somewhat solidly, but I don't know. I definitely thought it was a little bit on the boring side. I don't think any of us have that perspective of just watching the episodes with no feeds. So maybe it'll feel different if we just weren't watching the feeds at all. But yeah, for me personally, I might actually disagree with the way people voted, just because we were all glued to the feeds in the first couple of weeks. Like we were all hooked. We were addicted. Like, I don't know. I thought we all loved it. I did.
Yeah.
I think people probably rated the feeds low because they weren't on a lot of the time. And so they probably were like trying to be like, yeah, well, I would have liked it if I saw any feeds, but they weren't on. So I'm rating it lower. Like I could imagine that sort of rating.
Yes. And the sum is greater, I always get that wrong when I try to inverse it. The season as a whole, an 8.1. 8.1 for the season as a whole. I think this is the highest rating that any season has ever received since I started asking the audience to rate the seasons. So very interesting. The audience did prefer the season as a whole more so than either the episodes or the feeds individually. And I think that the extra points are coming from the feeds, right? Like just your overall, again, experience from the season at large here. So I gotta say, I would personally, I think this is a 9 for me. I think this is a 9 season. It was not a perfect season. It was not like the absolute top of what we could see in Big Brother. I think for me, it was the lack of like absolute high tier strategy that keeps it like completely at a 10 for me. Like if these were all like really, really high level players that weren't making constant mistakes, but were instead sabotaging each other so much that there was still some intrigue, that would have been like more toward a 10 for me. I think also there were a couple of things, one being the feeds being down so much, a couple of the twists that didn't land for me, like the invisible HOH week, and stuff like that. So not a perfect season, but very close. A 9 out of 10 for me. It's been a while, but I'm very, very excited that we got such a great season here.
I totally that as it got down, even in the end game, it was still exciting. Like there was still stuff going on up until the feeds turned off. Like you don't normally get that. Usually for the last like few weeks, it's like, okay, yeah, we basically know what's going on. There's really no strategy because it's like, what are you going to strategize about? People are already set in their alliances, set in their ways. Like there's not really going to be anything to strategize about. And so I really do think that like this season delivered for us. I mean, we got fun feeds, we got, crazy gameplay, we got flips, last minute flips. I mean, we got betrayals. Like, I just feel like there was so much there. And yeah, sure, they weren't top tier players necessarily, but like, I think we got a lot of entertainment out of it. So I appreciated it.
Yeah, for me, I think a lot of what I factor also is just like the unpredictability. Like when I think about a bad season, it's like, after a certain number of weeks, the exact boot order that's going to happen. And you just every single week, you're just like, all right, this person's going home and then this person, someone's entire game plan and it works out almost too beautifully where it's kind of just boring. But here, there was so much unpredictability. Like on a week by week basis, you were just like, I don't know what could happen. Someone could make this decision and take this person out, or someone can make this decision. Like it was so unpredictable. And I always think that that's a great quality in a Big Brother season. Like along with the gameplay, which I thought was, the gameplay was all right, but it was unpredictable enough. So I think that definitely factors in and makes it a good season.
Okay. Did you guys give it a number?
I'll be at like an 8. I'm not as high as you. I think that like for me, like there was not that many like great players. So I'd be at like an 8. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be between an 8 and a 9, probably an 8 if I have to pick.
All right. Okay, we're gonna play this game one more time. It's the last time of the season. What are the favorite player rankings from the audience? We ready? It's good. We got the whole cast. So it's going to be Phil versus Melissa. Who will win? Who can predict the most amount of placements on the favorite player rankings list?
Yo, let's go.
All right. First up, who is number
this is
one?
So hard.
Who is the RHAP favorite player of the season?
Melissa, you go.
Ty? I don't know. Maybe he landed on a high.
Yeah, I'm gonna say Kiefer.
Melissa has 1 point. It is tie.
Woo!
Melissa's up
right.
1-0. All right. Who is number 2?
I'm gonna say now it's Kiefer.
I kind of feel like Jed.
You are both incorrect. The answer was
What?
Victoria. Victoria was in second place.
That was gonna be my 3. Okay.
Man, okay. All right. Okay.
All right. Who is the real 3? Who's number 3?
All right. Kiefer. I know I'm just sound like whatever. It's Kiefer. It's Kiefer, right?
Jed?
You are both incorrect again.
I'm done with guessing Kiefer.
Yeah, I'm done with guessing Jed, and it's gonna be the next one.
Number
it's literally
3
we're never guessing those.
is Rohan. Rohan,
Wow, the
number
Rose
3.
Show. How could I forget?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
He was not.
Out the dodo.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Who is number 4?
I think it's Tina.
I think it's Kiefer.
You were both incorrect.
What? Oh my God.
It's Brayden.
Oh,
Brayden
my
in 4th
God.
place.
Brayden lands a weenie.
There we go. You're both doing very poorly.
I don't understand. I guess I'm not in touch with the people.
I'm so out of touch with that, but yeah.
Yeah, I only know the number 1, and then it's out for me.
So yeah, Melissa
God.
still has 1 point. Phil has 0.
I'm winning.
All right,
I gotta go on Twitter more.
who is in 5th place?
Okay, you go.
Tara?
All right, Tina.
You were both incorrect.
Oh my God, it's
What
Kiefer,
the
isn't
heck?
it?
It's Jed.
Oh my God.
Oh,
Jed
I
in
was going to
5th
pick
place.
Jed. I should have just done Jed every single time because then I could have gotten 2 points and I don't think Phil could have beaten me.
I think that Jed voting for Ty helped his popularity. I think that I mean he made, you know, one of the dumbest moves we've ever seen, but he did so with an open heart, and then he voted for the person that screwed him over. I feel like that wins him a lot of points here for Jed. So 5th place there for Jed, who is in 6th place.
Kiefer?
All right, I'm going Beth on this one. Maybe a
Melissa
mistake.
is correct. This is where Kiefer finally landed.
I'm done.
I'm so winning this. I'm amazing.
Oh my God. All right.
Oh man.
right.
Yes. Kiefer here
Next
in 6th.
up.
7th place.
Tina, give it to me.
Tara.
Phil on the board. It is
All right.
Tina.
Oh,
Yo, all right. I'm in it.
God, oh God.
We've got a competition again. Who is 8th place?
Tara.
You stole mine. Okay, I'm gonna go with who's next on the board. All right, I'm gonna go with Beth.
You are both incorrect.
Ah.
It's Toya.
Ah.
Yeah, sneaking up there.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. 9th place.
Tara.
I'm gonna go with. I just guessed Tina, right? I'm gonna go with Beth again.
Melissa now with 3 points. It is
Woo!
Tara in 9th place. All right, we're getting down to the bottom 5 here. Who is 10th place?
Austin.
I'm gonna go with Kyle.
Melissa nails it again.
Oh my God.
It's Austin.
I see. I know the bottom.
She's running away with it here.
I don't know the top, but I know the bottom.
11th place.
And I should not have said that because now I don't know.
Okay. Beth, please.
Yeah. Wait. Who do we have left?
We have. I need to say them in an order
don't
that is
say it in
not
the right order. All right. Wait. We have Kyle. We have Tara.
Josh and Julie.
Tara's already gone.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Tara's
Kyle,
already gone.
Josh,
Tina's
Julie,
already gone.
Beth.
Oh, Kyle, Josh, Julie, Beth. Okay, I think it's Kyle.
And Phil said
Beth.
you are both incorrect. It is Josh.
Oh my God.
Oh,
my God.
Josh. Wow. Okay.
Okay, then
All right, bottom 3.
Julie.
I was gonna say that. Okay. Beth then.
Both incorrect. It's Kyle.
Oh my God. Yo, is Beth
Julie,
is low.
and then Beth is last.
All right,
That's what I
Melissa
think
calls
the
it
people are
Julie
saying.
Beth.
I mean, I also think that, but I'll say the opposite.
Okay,
for
well, by
argument's
saying
sake.
the opposite, you continued to be wrong. So,
Poor Beth.
so
I feel
just
bad
to
for
quickly
Tragic.
recap here: Ty on top, followed by Vic, Ro, Braden, Jed, Kiefer, Tina, Toya, Tara, Austin, Josh, Kyle, Julie, Beth at the very bottom.
I thought people liked Beth. I thought people thought Beth was like the new Allison or whatever, that she was playing everybody. What happened to that narrative? I
This
This is
think
why
I'm
I
out of
love
it.
you, Phil.
Yeah, that's
I'm so
Yeah.
out of it.
poor Beth.
All right. Yeah, Beth not having a great time on Twitter. She did issue an apology. I saw that happened recently. For her behavior in the house. I didn't read it. So
I read it.
okay.
It was good. I thought it was a good apology, but I guess it's not up to me to say whether it's good or not. I don't know. I thought that I liked, I think it's good that she put something out there for sure. I don't think that people should send her hate or anything that is going on. And I think that I feel bad for her. So I don't like it. I'll just put it out there. I don't like it.
Melissa doesn't like it. Okay. Where do we rank the season? I gave 5 options. Is it a top tier season? Is it a middle tier season? A bottom tier season? Or is it the best season? Or is it the worst season? 70% of the audience, top tier season. That's where I'm at.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's interesting because I think it is a top tier season for Big Brother Canada, but then when I actually wrote out the seasons, there's not enough seasons of Big Brother Canada that it ends up being top for me. Like it ends up being middle, but I think of it as a top season. Like, I don't know. I guess for me, the sorry, Riley is literally at my microphone. She's literally on me. Okay. Sorry, it keeps getting unplugged. Basically, for me, the Big Brother Canada seasons go from top and bottom. There's not really a middle for me. I don't know why. It's just there's,
if you don't count 8.
I guess so. It's just there's a cut where it's just okay, these are considered my top seasons, these are considered my bottom seasons, and they can kind of be interchangeable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you don't count 8, then there are 8 seasons and 5 categories. So
right.
But you are counting 8, right?
Room.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, I think 8 is are we gonna put 8 above a full season? It's a tricky one.
You can't. I don't think so.
Yeah. I asked, so what exact position in the ranking? Oh, by the way, 17% said best season. 10% said it was middle tier.
That's pretty good.
2% said bottom tier. And how many people is this? Hold on. 2 people said it was the worst season.
The worst season?
They're wrong.
I don't know about that one, y'all.
They're just wrong. We all know it.
So, well, this is interesting, actually, because I did also then have people place the exact position on the rankings, the season rankings for Big Brother Canada, and 4 people put it last.
4 people. Who are the? You got names on that? Taran?
So hold on.
This has to be fake. No way.
2 people said it was the worst season of Big Brother Canada, but 4 people said it was the worst season of Big Brother Canada.
All right, something's fishy here. Something doesn't add up.
Which is weird too, because there were fewer people that had a specific number, because that's a weirder question. So it's not there were 4 people that said it was the worst season, but only 2 of them gave a number. No, it was 2 people said it was the worst season, and then 2 additional people, after saying only bottom tier or something, decided, nah, you know what? It's last. I'm not changing my answer.
It's actually the worst. That's so bizarre. It is, and also guys, come on. It is not the worst season. We can all say, I just feel like they're wrong. They're wrong. 60%, 30 and 30% say 2 and 3, second and third place. So between second and third place in the season rankings for Big Brother Canada, about 60% of the audience total. So very, very close. Again, that's that top tier makes up most of the top tier responses from the previous question. If I had to rank the season, I still don't know exactly where I would put it, but it would definitely, I think it would have to be in the top 3.
Yeah,
at least
4.
The top half.
Top half for sure. But for me, I think when I had to write it out, if I had to, it's really hard because honestly, if you ask me on whatever day, maybe I would change my answer. But at this point, I think I would have to go 5, 6, 2, 9. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But they also all 4 of those are my top. So it's you could switch them out and I'd be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, for me, I definitely have it. I think third. I think what I'd have above it is probably like I definitely have 2 above it, and I definitely have 6 above it. And I think like yeah, right after that, I'd probably have 9. Because I mean, yeah, season 9, like every single week there was a pendulum shift. It's exactly what we in the beginning of the game, especially like that's exactly what the fans want. Like, and of course, the end game might not have had the best players that we wanted, but still, I think it's definitely it stacks up against some of the best Big Brother Canada seasons.
I'm wondering how much. So obviously the shifting helped during the season, but something that we talked about for Big Brother Canada 7 was that like, and this is something that I think we talk about in terms of casual audience versus feed audience, is that the editors and the casuals clearly love a narrative, and I'm not sure. I think that this is something that Big Brother Canada 6 suffers from. I still love it. But it doesn't have the best narrative. They kind of had like Dela and then Paris, the underdog. That was basically the thing you took away from Big Brother Canada 6. Big Brother Canada 9, like what is the strategic, at least, narrative of the season? I'm not sure. I think it's Jed not using the veto. I think that's the biggest thing that comes. I think Ty betraying Jed, him not using the veto, Ty wins the game. I think that's like 5 years from now, that's what we're going to remember strategically season 9 being.
For sure, absolutely. I think what I think people are going to take away is not only just that one move, but just the trifecta of Jed, Ty, and Beth. I think like having them 3 working together is such an interesting dynamic. And we also just lucked out in the fact that like on the very first episode, the first night of the show, you get Jed and Ty like linking up, like, "Yo, let's ride this out. Let's do this." You know what I mean? And then it ends up working out where one of them is the winner, and then one of them also like totally falls on his sword for someone else in their alliance. Like I don't know. I definitely think like that it has that narrative. It definitely doesn't have like the season 7 like narrative of just all of them, the pretty boys getting together. But it still kind of has it. It's not totally mismatched where sometimes some people are giving the narrative and sometimes other people are giving the narrative. Like there's definitely sometimes like we talk about it a lot in the episodes, like the episode recaps about how it's like every week someone will get a mastermind edits. Every week someone will be like, "Yo, I'm the one running the game." But I think overall it's you cut Jed and Ty and Beth to an extent were kind of the protagonists of the story. I feel Kiefer kind of snuck in later on, but I think you still kind of got that narrative. Hopefully, I don't know what the casuals think though.
Yeah, I mean, it's always interesting to me, like thinking back to previous seasons, like what are the things that stand out? Like when I think about some of my favorite seasons, think about like the original All Stars. You think about Chilltown. You think about Chilltown just like betraying people and throwing competitions, and Janelle winning, and Danielle knocking on the door. Like a lot of great moments. Big Brother 10, obviously, tons of great moments. Lots of narrative there. Dan, the underdog, comes back, steamrolls the second half of the game. There's like the great seasons all have like this big narrative, and it's always interesting to try to predict what is the narrative. And when you think about like recent seasons, like Big Brother 20, we think about Baute screwing up level 6, running circles around them, and then a boring steamroll in the second half. Season 21 was just a cluster of nonsense. And then Jackson lied at the end. And then season 22 was just complete, similar
Nothing.
to season 16, just Cody and Derek just running the whole show. So what is going to be? And not only with us, but with like the entire fan base, right? Like, what is going to be the most memorable parts from the season? What is going to be the narrative that is taken away from the season? I think, to your point, Phil, if we're talking about potential season-long narrative, I think it's the trio, Ty betraying them, Jed not using the veto. I don't know if Kiefer survives the narrative unless he comes back, because at the end of it, he, like, even though he was the central part of it in reality, I'm not sure that he will be remembered as the central part of it, because at the end, he didn't make it to the final three.
Yeah, you got to bookend it. You got to make it like it's always the victor that tells the narrative. You know what I mean? And so because, and we'll get into this later when we talk about winners and everything, but like Ty is he owns the narrative now because he is the one from that alliance to actually make it onto the end. Like Braden and Tara were kind of two people that were on the bottom for most of the game. So it kind of is like it all of a sudden by the finale, if you're watch for story, it's like this is Ty's game to lose. This Ty was telling the story. Actually, even though he really wasn't in the beginning, but for us, for our perspective, it is kind of like Ty is the one that was kind of running the games to an extent in the beginning, and so now he's gonna finish that. But in terms of like definitely like one of those like the smaller moments that you kind of talk about, I don't know if season 9 does have that, so that's something that does make me raise an eyebrow about its longevity.
Yeah, and this is something that is being talked about right now is that the ratings for this season were not good. They were not as high as they were for the time that Big Brother Canada 8 was airing. They were not as good as Big Brother Canada 7 ratings, as far as I can tell. And that's obviously concerning on a couple of levels. One being, they almost canceled the show before, so hopefully that's not happening. But also, it is still like the inverse of how the online community responds to a season. Everyone loves this season versus Big Brother Canada 7, which people did not like, but people watched the crap out of Big Brother Canada 7 and did not watch this season. I'm tempted to say, well, what's with it's 9 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock, it's 7 o'clock? Like that couldn't have helped. I'm sure that the fact that the other season ended so early, like it's maybe not in people's minds anymore. Maybe they're a little more hesitant to commit to a season. But at the same time, I do feel like this is kind of a trend where Big Brother 16 super high in the ratings, Big Brother 17 not so much, and I don't know. I feel like this is something that we talk about a lot, but are the casual audience, or is the casual audience and the online audience, are they at odds? I don't know. Yeah. I definitely think that is 100. Like I 100% think that's the case because of course, for the people who watch the feeds and people who talk about it on Twitter all the time, like they're looking for constant movement. They're looking for constant shifting. Things to be constantly happening and things to be constantly entertaining them. While for the casual audience, Big Brother doesn't really make up, most of their life, so they just want to watch a show, 3 times a week, and they kind of just want something simple that they can just easily digest. They know the pretty boys are running the game. The pretty boys are getting everybody. And so that's, oh yeah, look, this is the season. And so they're able to kind of have that and enjoy it on that level, while a season that is constantly, going back and forth and ebbing and flowing. I mean, to us, it's interesting, but I guess for the casual audience, unfortunately, people have kind of moved on, and that's kind of all they want is the simple narratives, unfortunately. Yeah, I think it's probably exaggerated even more for Big Brother Canada because they do have such a hard time figuring out how to edit it. Which
I don't understand why. It's like, how come the US can I feel like the US does a good job of basically yes, it's oversimplifies a lot of stuff, but you kind of have to do that. You don't have a lot of time. But it actually, I feel like accurately shows what's going on. Maybe not all the details, but you get the gist. And I feel like Big Brother Canada is like, okay, what's the easiest way to get this end result? Let's just do the easiest way. It doesn't matter if it actually happened that way or not. If one random person was like, maybe we could get Kiefer out, and then they had nothing to do with it, but because they had that soundbite, they were able to be like, okay, so let's have this person say, maybe we could get Kiefer out. And then Kiefer ends up leaving that week. That's the reasoning. And it's just show what happened. I don't know. It's just so bizarre. I don't get it.
Yeah. I'm actually not sure how Big Brother 22 did in the ratings. It's not something that I looked up.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see, because people are asking, should Big Brother Canada 10 be an all-star season? But I feel like all-star seasons weirdly end up often doing worse. I think because maybe you need prior knowledge, and there's a lot that people feel like they're missing, perhaps. But we know that Big Brother Canada 5 even though it was an amazing season, was the season that nearly got the show canceled.
Yeah, I 100%. I think that is always the case, and especially when this All Stars casts are definitely more gameplay oriented, and they're just talking about past relationships and game. It's definitely harder for someone who doesn't really know any of these people to kind of really sit into. And I'm also because like before the season, like when Arissa was announced that she was going to be like a producer, an executive producer on the show, we were all excited because Arissa is going to give us what we want. But I think. And maybe while that happened, Arissa was giving, the online fans what they want, but maybe that sacrificed, the larger audience. I don't know. It's unfortunate, but I'm also curious to just know, and I don't know how I can find this, but the Canadian, like the Canadian viewership for the U.S. seasons, not just the U.S. Viewership, but I wonder if we could find that and see kind of what they think of like the U.S. seasons overall, and if those are also falling or not. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
All right. Well, I also asked the audience here, which 3 players do you think are most likely to play Big Brother again? So not necessarily your favorite, but who do you think is the most likely to return and play again? Phil,
that was a hard question.
It is now time for redemption. Can you beat Melissa? Name the 3 people you think the audience chose, and then give me your picks.
All right. I think the 3 people the audience chose are Kiefer. I think they chose Show, and I think they chose Victoria. Yeah. What do you think, Melissa?
Well, I think it would be Victoria, probably Kiefer. Look, I don't know what the audience picked, but I'm telling you that what I think the producers will pick is Victoria, Kiefer, and possibly Jed, because they want Jed's redemption story of like, I used the veto and I was betrayed and now I'm coming back stronger than ever, blah, blah, blah. Or they pick, instead of Jed, maybe they pick Latoya because like she brings drama, like, or like confrontation, and she's not afraid to play, and et cetera, et cetera. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know what the audience wants because they want weird stuff.
Okay, well, Melissa got 2 out of 3, but fell down at the finish line. So Phil actually nailed it. Victoria, Kiefer, and Ro were the top 3 picks from the audience. They think those 3 will return. I have to say, I do agree, though, with Melissa. I'm not sure that Ro is going to be the pick from the producers.
Yeah.
He will not be the pick. There is no way.
Him.
They didn't even show him in the finale, like at all. There is no way that the producers are like, yes, we want that guy. He didn't really give us anything. I'm not going to lie. Like, I get that people like him. I get it. But like, I didn't get anything from him throughout the season that would make me be like, yes, I need to see more. I want to see more of this.
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely, I mean, I wouldn't also pick Ro. I mean, I think I like the guy and everything, but I thought that he definitely gives a good DR. I definitely think like when he's talking to the camera, he talks like he knows what he's talking about. He talks like a power player, you know what I mean? But in terms of actually what he did in the house, and in terms of like, he had that one Kiefer confrontation, but besides that, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what he was offering production besides the DR. So, for my personal taste, I would love to see Kiefer back. I would love to see Victoria back, of course. But then I would also, I'd probably think that, or I would really like to see Jed back, just because I feel like Jed, like you were saying, like he had such a big part of the narrative. And I think that he's such a, I think he was definitely a fan favorite. So I think that he's someone that people would want to bring back to as just a mental association to what season 9 was.
Yes. All right. I feel like Toya has a chance. I feel like she was such a big presence on the feeds and the show in those first few weeks, and I feel like she'd have a chance. Obviously, I think Ty, if he wants to come back, would probably have a chance at some point, so long as the show does not get canceled. And the audience, actually, they had Jed in 4th place. They had Julie in 7th place. That there's a chance that Julie could come back. She said, "Hey, Julie for All Stars." I believe that like the official Twitter like retweeted that clip or something along those lines. I would love to see Julie have an actual chance personally, but or at least to be able to see her at all. would be nice, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I also think that I don't think that having Julie go out first means that they should totally even stop casting transgender house guests. Like they should just keep casting transgender house guests, obviously. But like I don't know. I think there's definitely a chance though that Julie could come back. I mean, and also even with Latoya, like if they brought Dallas back, they could definitely bring back Latoya easily. Like so, yeah, I'd love to see both of them back for sure.
Yeah, honestly, I wouldn't put it past them to bring back literally any of these house guests, but just from my perspective, the ones that have like a story, like a reason to come back, like I do think that like Jed has a reason to come back. There's a story with Jed, even though it's like, yeah, I do feel like we've seen most of what Jed could do, but it's like the idea that like, oh, this could be a redemption story, like I don't know. I do think that there is benefit to casting players that have a story. However, I will say that in Big Brother 22, there were a lot of players that had something to prove in a story, and they all came back and doing the exact same thing they did before, and it was really dull and terrible. So, I don't know. I guess like it's the idea of a story, but really, I don't know if they'll do anything with it.
Yeah. All right. I then asked about how did the audience feel about the various twists? The first one being, the first week had no HOH or nominations. It was just half the house was vulnerable. The audience pretty negative on this one. A 42 out of 100. Kind of like, which is kind of how I feel about it as well. I mean, I feel like it was like, but we lost Julie because of it. I don't think we would have lost Julie because of it. Beyond that, or without that twist, and I think Julie would have been very entertaining in the house. I do feel like it kind of flopped as a twist here.
Yeah, I mean, totally. They definitely tried something in their head. They thought this would totally cause a split house, and it didn't really. But like, I definitely thought, props to them also for just realizing after like basically a week that they're like, this isn't really working. Let's just stop doing this. So it could have gone on for a lot longer. But yeah, we got some collateral damage out of it, but it definitely could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, and the team twist in general, I asked how the audience felt about that. Even worse, 27 out of 100. That they did not like the team twist at all. And definitely a good call to end that early. Yeah, I think that was a good call. Here's the only thing that landed in the positive: the invisible HOH twist, a 64 out of 100. Still not a passing grade. But almost there. I feel like that was actually the worst week of the season. I think the concept is okay, but it did not play out very well. I don't think that they executed it very well. So I feel like it's something worth exploring again, but I think that they need to have a better idea of how to execute it.
Yeah, and definitely like having Victoria win it, brought out a certain like train wreck quality to it. And I had a lot of fun with it, but yeah, I'd love to see how a different player would definitely tackle the invisible HOH and what they would do rather than, Victoria kind of just being Victoria.
The fake double eviction twist got a 35 out of 100 score. Very, very unpopular. People did not, which is interesting because I do feel like it played out almost as well as it could have. If Jed had come back, that probably would have been the most exciting result. But in terms of like, it happened to be on the week that Jed didn't use the veto. That was very exciting in the moment, but at the same time, it did kind of dull the impact of Jed not using the veto, because it wasn't final until Tara took him out. And so it kind of felt like, well, he lost because Tara beat him more so than he lost because he used the veto on somebody else. And it did end up kind of ruined the moment a little bit. Yeah.
I will say though that I did love when like Jed got out and then was like, oh, you're not out of the game. Like there were some really good moments with it, but I do feel like it was kind of like, I don't know. Like, I think partly my perspective of it is more negative now after we like lost feeds and like didn't get to see someone come back in. It's like, okay, so we didn't even get the benefit of having this happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't love it as much as I originally was like, oh, this is so exciting. It's so fun. And then it was like, oh, actually now this is just a bummer.
Yeah. I also asked the audience, how do you feel about the kinds of competitions this season? During Big Brother 21 and 22, I've asked the audience about like their thoughts on the competitions overall. Definitely the highest score we've gotten here, 79 out of 100. Good competitions this season. They did a good job.
Especially, during a pandemic too. We saw, the Big Brother 20, like a lot of the Big Brother 22 competitions weren't really that fantastic. And so I thought, Big Brother Canada 9, they really, really delivered with a lot of unique and inventive competitions. So I would definitely agree. Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly, I think it was likely because of COVID restrictions that we got so many good competitions that weren't overly physical and led to a result where a lot of people were even going into many of these competitions. I thought that was really, really good. I really hope that they continue in that direction, but I don't know that they will. Without COVID restrictions restricting them, they may decide that they like their big set piece physical competitions, and they like the same people winning the same competitions over and over again because it gives them a nice, easy narrative to follow. So we'll see if this continues, but I did really enjoy it. I think the competitions were perhaps the most important element of this season being as good as it was, right up there with the cast overall. Definitely loved the makeup of the competitions this season. Final question. I wish I'd been asking this question in previous seasons because I feel like it's a great thing to track over time. But I asked the audience, how did you feel about the jury's decision? Do you think they made the right call? Did you love their decision, or did you hate their decision? They made the wrong call. 84 out of 100. Great score. People really liked the decision the jury made. They think the jury made the right call, tie over Brayden, and I agree. Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, this wasn't a good one to start the survey on because it was an easy one. But that's why I was like, I wish I had the data from previous seasons now.
Right. I wonder what it would have been for like Big Brother Canada 7.
That would have been an interesting one. Big Brother 20.
That one was kind of even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Interesting stuff there. All right. Let's get into it then. Let's rate the players. Let's do it.
Very excited.
I have no idea anymore.
Me too.
I wish I knew what I had rated players in previous seasons so I could like compare them. I should have looked that up, but I did not think to do that.
Well, I can try and help you a little as much as I can here. I've got some of them open here. Here's let's go in order. Let's go in order of eviction here. So first person evicted was Julie. And I've got to say I have no idea whatsoever what I'm supposed to rate Julie, considering I saw basically nothing of her game. She was obviously not on the feeds, and even on top of that, I feel like in the episodes we didn't really see anything about like why she was evicted. I think the only thing I can go off of here is that, again, I do not believe that she would have been evicted if this had been a regular week. Victoria would have won the HOH. Victoria would not have nominated Julie, and Julie would have been safe. Austin would have won week 2. She would have been safe week 2 as well. I think that without that twist, she is at least into week 3. And thus, I can only assume that she did get screwed by a twist to some degree. Add on top of that, the fact that I really don't know much about her game at all. And I'm going to be, I think, generous and just say, I do think she made some mistakes in what I saw on the episodes, but I'm just going to give her a 4 and just be like, all right, I know very little. What little I know was not great, but there's a lot of reason to believe that you got screwed. So it's a 4 from me. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, that's not, too far off. I mean, because, I think, if you're a first boot, you most likely did something like, even if it's just like small social stuff, then, there's a reason why you were the first boot. Maybe it was like social cues or, but again, we don't really know because we didn't have feeds for that. So yeah, it's really hard. You didn't ask me, Taran, but I mean, I'll just say mine. Hello. I'll give, I'll give Julie, I'm going to give her a 3 just because, she was the first boot. I don't want to be like too high on her, but she was definitely screwed over by a twist. But yeah, I don't have that much information.
Yeah, I'm giving Julie a 3 as well because I don't know enough about her, but at the same time, like and to be fair, this is just like the edit, I guess. But to be fair, I did see like her getting into it with Josh a bit and getting into it a bit with like Toya a little, and it does seem kind of like she's not afraid to like just speak her mind and be like, this is it. And if you're already, getting into confrontational situations in the first week, it's a little like, uh-oh. And also like, it's to her credit, it might've just been because she was on the block and felt the need to defend herself in those situations. And maybe if she wasn't on the block, she could have kind of like sunk back into the background. We don't know, but all we can go off of is what we've seen. And I gotta give her a 3.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think about something like Kiefer at the final 4 is basically laying down and dying. If Kiefer was vulnerable in the first week and was one of the people that people were like, oh, we might vote out Kiefer, and his response was similar to the one that he had in the final 4, which was like, well, okay, that's it then. And he was the first one out and we hadn't seen anything from him. Like, that's all we would know, and we would not know that Kiefer was at least a little bit better than that. Right? So I think my point being, I think that, players that are targeted right out of the gate, I think that, they often will have more that they potentially could have shown, especially if we didn't even see what they had to show on the feeds. The audience, though, disagrees with me. The audience gave Julia 2. Rare instance of the audience being the lowest on a player here. So next person evicted was Josh. Josh. Yeah. Phil, you want to start with Josh?
I mean, for me, I could go ahead. Yeah, for me, Josh is just a 1. I mean, there's not that much. He definitely just from watching, what he did in the house. Everyone kind of Josh kept on trying socially, but like he just did not have that, and that's kind of the fundamental thing you need to be a good Big Brother player. Doesn't matter if you have all the strategy in the world, if you can't actually connect with people, and if you can't actually get along with people in the house, then it's going to be hard for you to do anything. So yeah, for me, Josh is just like a 1. I feel like if you put Josh in a lot of Big Brother seasons, he's either going to be someone who just kind of can't get along with people and then get taken out early, or maybe you'll get dragged somewhere. I would probably say that we also just don't know whatever happened on day 3, right? We never figured that out.
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't know. It was I know Josh was like talking a lot about I think he might have said to Kyle like you can't win this game. Idiot. And I don't know. And the Pretty Boys 2.0 stuff. Who knows exactly? But I'm with you. I mean, Josh entered the game immediately, had 0 social capital. I think that he's a fun guy, and I appreciate him outside of the house. But he had just no chance in this game. And the problem is, I don't know of any cast that he would have just immediately fit in with. I think that he's always going to be a little bit of an outcast, and obviously that's not really play well. So I did also give him a 1. Melissa, what do you think? Oh, you're muted.
I think you guys are wrong. I don't know. Like, I don't think Josh is like an amazing player or anything, but I think you guys are. I think it's a little unfair to just be like, oh, he's always going to be an outcast, like no matter what cast he's in. I don't see that necessarily. I think that like he was in a bad situation. And I think that like under normal situations, like he could have said like, yeah, this looks kind of like the Pretty Boys 2.0. And then that person could have been like, yeah, you're right. And then nothing would have happened. I just feel like it's like he just talked to the wrong person or whatever. And like, but I think that, and then I think once you're already like a pariah and you're just like on the block or whatever, like people aren't going to like try and work with you or hang out with you because you're already on your way out the door and they don't want to be the next ones. They don't want to be associated with you. And I think that like, had that not happened and had he just been put in a different set of situations, like I think he could have gone a lot further. I think that, yeah, I just think that the whole like blow up in the beginning with Julie like did not suit him. And I think that maybe that wouldn't have been, maybe then like they wouldn't have seen him as this like outcast had that not happened. I just think, I think that it's a little unfair to give him a 1. So to be honest, I'm between a 2 and a 3. And I don't know. I kind of feel like I want to give him a 3. That was my initial thought, was give him a 3 because I don't really know how he would do. And I think if you're immediately off the bat, like just totally, you know, put off, like people just like don't give you a chance because you're on the block for whatever reason. I think it's hard for you to come back from that. And I do think that he came really close to coming back from that. And I have to give him credit because he almost got that vote flip. Maybe it wasn't necessarily his doing, but the fact that it almost happened, we could have seen more. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just a like foregone conclusion that he was going to go. So, and I also think he worked really hard to try and like blow up the house and get people to turn on each other. And, you know, I do think that I have to give him credit for that. So yeah, I'm going to give him a 3.
Yeah, I mean, for me too, it's the fact that like he goes out on an HOH reign that shouldn't have even been targeting him in the first place. Like Austin had no business targeting Josh that week, and it's still the week that he goes. Which tells me that like this was not a case of like, oh, bad luck with competition outcomes. It was like that was about as good as it could have been for Josh in terms of competition outcomes, and he still went out. So,
but also like, why do we sit there and say that we think Julie would do well?
I'm not saying that I think Julie would do well. I'm saying that I don't know.
But you guys gave her like a 4 or whatever.
It's 4, which is a bad rating.
No, I know, but in comparison to Josh, it just doesn't make sense to me how like Julie were like, oh yeah, she could do really great things, but Josh, no way. We could never see him doing well. It just doesn't make any sense.
The difference is that I've seen a lot more of Josh. I saw a whole week of him on the feeds. I know what he's like when he plays from behind. I know that when he went into the house, more so than what we saw, at least from Julie, he sort of put himself there with the Pretty Boys 2.0 business. And so the main difference for me, again, is that Josh was a target week 1, a target week 2 from people that shouldn't have been targeting him, would have been a target week 3. Whereas Julie would not have been a target week 1 or 2 if it had not been for the twist. And even bigger than that, the difference is that I know a lot less about Julie, and so she's going to gravitate more toward the middle for me. I know a lot more about Josh, enough to say pretty confidently that I don't feel like he's going to do particularly well in any season that he's dropped into.
Yeah, to give credit to you, Melissa, I do kind of give him respect for trying to get the vote flip. I don't know if the flip would have actually happened, but I mean, props to him for not laying down and dying for sure. But also, I personally just think that, you know, the Pretty Boys 2.0 comment, you're saying like if it happened on another season, someone would have totally bought into it. I agree, but I also think that, you know, in order to make those kind of comments, you need to kind of have a social foundation first. I feel like you need to really have that connection and that bond with someone. And I get that, you know, he was maybe put in a bad position, but I think some of that still kind of was a little bit of his fault, and just, you know, not having, like, you gotta, you know, have those social bonds before you start calling people the Pretty Boy 2.0. But I understand. I definitely know what you mean though, with just him. He doesn't lay down and die. He did something. Yeah.
It's just hard for me because it's like, I think the Pretty Boys 2.0 comment is so innocuous, and like I think it was played up so that way they have a reason to like go after him. I think on any other season, people say, oh, I think an all-girls alliance is forming. And then does anyone target the person who said that I think an all-girls alliance is forming? It's like, no, they say, well, there could be an all-girls alliance. like, who knows? But they never just immediately like, you called it out. You said there might be an all-girls alliance. Okay, we are targeting you. It's like, that's not even like, everybody should be questioning whether an alliance is forming. Like that should be something we bring up, and it shouldn't be something that's like, why would you even say such a thing?
Well,
It's so crazy to me.
I mean, that's exactly the point for me, is that like he should have allies. He should be able to say those things. They are reasonable things, but he wasn't. The way that he delivered it, the fact that he didn't have any allies, it sunk him. And he did so while being vulnerable for eviction.
Wasn't he already being targeted prior to that comment?
Well, we can't know exactly, but from what was talked about, it was like, well, no, day 3 caused everyone to go against Josh, and then that whole blow up.
And wasn't he like so? But wasn't it a situation where it had to be him because of the team twist?
No, everybody was available to be evicted on the
when
Team
he
Defender.
was first. When he was first. Wasn't he nominated first week? Am I just misremembering this?
All of Team Defender was, except for Kiefer, was nominated first week.
And then next week he was nominated, and everyone else was able to be nominated.
Next, the following week, Austin could only choose from Team Defender of 4 people to nominate.
And he was one of them.
And he was one of the people she chose to nominate and then subsequently target.
And then he went out.
Yes.
Sorry, I'm misremembering. But still, I do think that the point still stands that like once you're already like being considered, I mean, if there's only a small group of people that to be considered and you're one of them, like you're already going to be on the outs. Like, I feel like it's not a situation where you're going to be like totally like, everyone wants to work with you. It's like, no, you have like that scarlet letter or whatever on you because you're eligible for eviction, and nobody wants to get caught up in that, especially if people are like, well, I guess let's just get out Josh. I just feel like it's one of those things that like, it's a snowball and it just keeps going and going and going until eventually you're out of the house. No one's going to want to work with you. I don't know. I look, I'm not trying to argue that Josh is like an amazing player, but I do think it's like a little bit unfair, at least from my perspective, to say that Julie was a better player than Josh, because I don't think we've seen anything from Julie to indicate that, or well, if you plopped her down on any other season, I don't think she would be necessarily in a better position than Josh would be.
I don't either. What I've seen, it's that I'm less sure. That's the difference.
From what I've seen from Julie, I don't know if she would do any better than first.
I think I personally would say it would be unfair to say that we definitively know that Julie is a worse player than Josh, considering we haven't seen anything from her. Right?
True. But that's why I put them at the exact same score, and that's what I think they should be, is the exact same score.
Okay. Tammy in the chat says, according to Kyle, he made a final 2 with Josh on day 1. Josh got paranoid Kyle was forming an alliance without him, therefore he blew him up. And that was part of the day 3 stuff. I do recall many of the guys in the house talking about like, if only Josh had not blown up, because we were cool. So it's, again, we really just don't know about what went down there. The audience.
I just hate that, and not to like harp on this, but like I hate the idea that if somebody brings up like, hey, I wonder if these people are forming an alliance, that is automatically like, oh no.
I mean, it's a pretty bad thing to say to people that you can't trust. Like, you should only say it to people that you can trust that are aligned with you. And the problem is that he didn't have any solid allies except for perhaps, clearly the people that he went to were the wrong people, because they blew him up and then he got blown up.
Yeah, I know, but I don't.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I just don't think that anybody should be like shamed for like being concerned about people forming other alliances. I feel like this is something that we always, yes, no, I know. I'm not saying you're shaming them. I'm saying the people in the house were shaming him. I think the issue is that like, we always are like, why aren't these people noticing these giant alliances around them? And it's because they're not saying it. And then the second somebody says it, it's like, everybody's like, why would you say such a thing? We shouldn't be concerned about other people in this house. Like, it just seems so like, I don't know.
The dogs are getting upset. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I definitely would like for players to be on alert for things like this. But at the same time, I don't want them to just start blabbing to anybody that will listen about it, because they need to be smart about it. They need to tell the right people, the people that they can trust. So I do agree. I don't think that players should be shamed for trying to call stuff like that out. But you know, I think that you do have to make sure that that we're talking to the right people when you do bring it up.
Yeah, to be fair, I think it's also hard in the beginning of a game to know whether or not you can trust somebody. Like it's like you have to broach these topics and like bring these conversations up in order to form trust. But then you shouldn't do it because you can't trust them fully yet, but you can't trust them until you've brought
That's
up
Big
these
Brother.
important conversations. It's like, yeah, but I don't know. It's like from Josh's perspective, it's possible that he thought he could trust who was it? Austin? I don't remember who he brought it up to. And then it's like, oh, actually you can't. And now we're like, oh, you should never have done that because you couldn't trust her. You only bring it up to people you can trust. But maybe he did think that he could trust her. I don't know.
Yeah. And you know, figuring out who you can and can't trust is definitely a big part of the game, right? Okay. So the audience decided to give Josh, if I can find the tab again, a 2 for Josh from the audience.
Right in the middle, split it,
There you
perfect.
go.
It's right in the middle. Everybody's happy.
Okay, let's move on to our next evicted player, and that is going to be Latoya. So soon. It seems too early to be talking about Latoya. Like, well, how are we talking about Latoya already? This is what I mean when I said she has such a big presence, on the show. So Melissa, let's start with you on Toya.
Ugh, I don't want to start. I'm really actually confused about her.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Yeah, for me, I mean, it also, like, as soon as like Latoya entered the game and like from watching the first few episodes, you're like, oh snap, Latoya is like a player that's gonna be, she's one of the main characters of this season. At least she was in the first, couple of weeks. It's like she's a player that has the longevity, she has this alliance set up, and now, she's ready to go. And I think a lot of that was just due to us just watching Big Brother 22, where kind of like the main characters were established early on, and the main alliance was set, and then that's kind of just how everything went. And so kind of the surprise of having, someone else like a Victoria win an HOH and then taking out Latoya was like a complete shock. For Latoya, for me, it's hard for me to ultimately say, I don't know, this is something that I was definitely wrestling with, because I think, I try to factor in, like, is it her coming back or is it just her in this season? But I always like to think of just her in this season. And I think she just played, she played very aggressively. She played hard. And I know we all love that. We love to watch it. But I think in this case, it definitely failed her. She has a lot of game tactics for sure, but I think she, is very, very, assertive with what she wants. And I think that kind of ultimately failed her. But I still kind of do have to give credit to her. I don't know. I'm going to be at a 4 for Latoya. That's kind of how I feel about her overall. It's hard just because I think if you bring her back, she might do well, but you got to look at her in this season. And so I think I give her a 4.
Yeah, that's actually what I have as well. I think I would give her a 4 because I think there are some good things and bad things about her. I think she is very influential and I think she's very smart. However, I do think that her social game lacks a little bit just because, she didn't really want to work with people that were outside of her alliance. I mean, you saw how she kind of treated Victoria, not that she treated her all that bad, but she just didn't want to work with her. And it was like very clear. And also she didn't want to lie. She wanted to, sort of lie, but never really actually directly lie to somebody, which I don't think is good for you in Big Brother, because I feel like it puts you in a lot of bad situations. The whole thing with Julie, I think it was Julie was trying to talk to her and she was like, yeah, I'm not having this conversation. It's like, I'm going in the hot tub. It was like, okay, that is not the way you handle this sort of thing. Like that's just not the way you do it in Big Brother. I mean, it's not. And I don't think that would serve her well moving forward. Also, she comes in and she plays really hard. She can't just sit back. And I think that's going to be a problem for her. But, all that being said, I do think that she's a really intelligent person. And I do think that the fact that she's able to flip votes like that, like how she was, I think that's very impressive. And people wanted to work with her. So yeah, it all kind of like evens out a bit to a 4 for me.
Yeah, I thought this might be controversial, but I went with a 4 for Toya. I think that her gameplay definitely left a lot to be desired. That there were a few things that she was clearly too out in front. That she was very inflexible. She did not want to lie. She was very loyal to her people. She was approached with other offers. She was in a position socially, because she was socially great, strategically one of the better players in the house. I mean, we're going to talk about Ty, our winner, had arguments with her about how he should absolutely make a truce with Kyle and Ro because they were going to be cool with him, and her being like, no, you idiot, what are you thinking? She had a good head on her shoulders, but she was not willing to get down and dirty in the same way ultimately that Ty was, and that definitely hurt her game. However, I do want to also say that I think that if anybody else had won that HOH other than Victoria, Ty and Jed are the targets, not Toya. And it took some very specific circumstances for Toya to be evicted. Now, she was a big target out in front of Ty and Jed. She definitely would have been up there on the block with them in a lot of different circumstances. But I do think she got really unlucky with that Victoria HOH. And for that reason, I do think that she had potential. I think she had almost as much potential as Ty or Jed when it came to that trio, the original trio, right? Certainly as much as Beth did. Ultimately, I think she would have performed better than Beth. The reason it's a 4 and not anything higher is because what I did see from her was not great, and the inflexibility was definitely not great. I wish that I'd been able to see more. I do think she has potential, but it's a 4. It's a 4 from me. And the audience is with that as well. They also gave her a 4.
Wow, that's surprising that we were all on the same one.
There you go. So next up, the next person evicted on Kiefer's HOH was Kyle. Man, Kyle's an interesting one as well, because Kyle is somebody who clearly had potential. He's taken out by Kiefer because he is the best player on the other side of the house. And it's very clear to Kiefer that he is, which kind of negates the fact that he's the best. Because if you're clearly the best player, then that doesn't help you a whole lot in the game, because that means you become a target. And Kyle was targeted over Ro, who Kiefer had a grudge against. And so, I'm struggling. I feel like there's a line here between a 4 and a 5 for Kyle, where I can see the potential. I want to reward the potential for Kyle at a 5, but at the same time, he was evicted, and he was evicted. He would have been evicted over Ro. He was evicted over Austin. I think he did a decent job at campaigning, but unfortunately, Tara kind of sunk his ship before he even started. He did a great job of rallying troops. He had a wrong read initially and approached the wrong people, who ended up ratting him out. But then he was able to figure out what he needed to do and the people that he needed to pull, and he got them. You also have to consider the fact that he had a lot more experience and knowledge about the game going in than many of the other players in the house, having literally practiced during Big Brother camping. But at the end of the day, I think for me, it's that ultimately he was ineffective, and if Kyle had as much promise as I thought he did, I feel like he would have succeeded more in this cast, where not many people were that great. And he should have been able to clean up here, and he didn't. So for me, I'm gonna lean more toward the 4. I feel like he's close to a 5, but I do think he did make mistakes, and I can't say with certainty that he is at that 5. So that's me. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I'm between a 4 and a 5 with him. I honestly was originally leaning towards a 5, but your explanation kind of made me lean more towards a 4, just because, like, I don't know. I feel like overall, I was thinking, okay, you put him in a random season, he's gonna do average, yeah, for sure. But then you're right, you're putting him in a season with a bunch of people who are not average. You'd think that an average player like would do much better than he did. And now considering the fact that like I kept in my mind thinking he lasted a lot longer than he did, but then now looking and it's like, okay, yeah, we've lost 3 people. He's the 4th person out. That's so early. And the fact that he was, playing against these people who didn't really have a lot of strategy, I think he really could have rallied the other side against the Sunsetters. And I didn't quite see that. I mean, yeah, technically they like formed the oddballs or whatever, but nothing really like coalesced. Nothing really happened from that. So yeah, I'm going to go with a 4 because also I don't think he's that memorable. I don't remember everything that he did. So I'm kind of like,
All right, Phil.
Yeah. For me, I am kind of, I'd hate to kind of just repeat what you guys said, and I'm going to try to not, but I definitely think that, I am giving Kyle ultimately a 4 as well. Just because like you guys were saying, he was a huge Big Brother fan. He had all that knowledge. And so I think obviously, just because you're a Big Brother fan doesn't mean that's going to translate to actually being a good Big Brother player, as we've seen countless times. But he kind of he didn't even have the perception of like the typical super fan. Like he went into it and he could have definitely lied about like being a super fan. But I think like there was so many times where I saw Kyle talking about his camping trip and talking about like how much he did know about the game, which definitely raised some eyebrows. And it definitely obviously if you talk about how much you are a Big Brother fan and how much you've actually literally played versions of Big Brother before, like that's not really going to help you. He could have gone to the game and just totally lied and said, I've never seen a Big Brother, I don't even know what this is. He could have been like the other Kyle Moore, you know what I mean? But he didn't. And so because of that, I'm going to also give him a 4. I think a lot of it was just due, yeah, like you're saying also, Melissa, he's just kind of like unmemorable, whatever. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely at a 4 for Kyle. Yeah.
All right. So there we go. That is a 4 from Phil, and the audience also went with a 4. There you go. That's going to be straight 4s for Kyle, similar to Toya there. Okay, let me I think I might have a visual for you guys. I apologize that I didn't have one before, but there we go. There's a little bit of a visual going on here, and it's not fully up to date. But if I do that, then I'm missing me. Whoops. All right, we're gonna pull it away for a sec. So there we go. There's Kyle. Let's talk about Austin. Phil, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, for me, I'm not too high on Austin's game overall. She started she was the first real HOH of the season. So, if you're the first HOH, we've seen countless times, even going just back to Big Brother 22, where, if you're the first HOH, you're able to set up a great alliance and you're able to really build the game up around you. There's so much potential for, being a first HOH. And Austin did not really deliver on that, I'd personally say. And I think, Jen, as the weeks went on, I felt like her potential kind of only just got worse and worse and worse. I felt like she kind of wasn't really doing much. And then after she partnered up with Brayden and then started to maybe think about the game a little bit, it was way too little too late. And there was kind of just nothing left to say. Like when Austin left, I honestly thought Austin could have stuck around just because she could have just been like a whatever player, someone that you could just keep around. But Austin was just someone that was just disposable. And so I'm going to give Austin a 2. That's how I'm feeling about her.
Yes, I'm in the same place. Austin was very disappointing gameplay wise, in my opinion. She came in the first week, as you said, in the second week technically, but she has that HOH. She gets to set the tone. There was no HOH in the first week, and the tone that she set was this very, very passive gameplay. She then spent the rest of her time in the house just attached at the hip to Brayden, who was never going to be targeted over her, so it just did not benefit her at all. And then despite that, she could have found herself in a decent place because of how the competitions played out, except she fell into a trap threw an ally under the bus, let her ally be flipped on her. Vic, when Austin was HOH, she was Vic's only friend in the entire game. And 3 weeks later, Vic evicts her from the game in a move that she does anonymously. She had the chance to target anybody, and she should not have made that move. It's, again, if you go out on a move that was a mistake from your ally, something went really wrong, because that should not have happened. Austin should have been able to hold on to Vic, because it made no sense for Vic to do that to Austin. So there's just a lot here. She never should have been out that early anyway. She was not doing super well. Like, she was a person who should have been able to ride to the end, as a sort of like, hey, I can be a floater, but she wasn't. She was firmly on a side, and she was enough of a threat to people in the game. She didn't play ball with them, that they wanted her out, and they were like, Austin was the target that the other side did want out and would have targeted had they won, and she shouldn't have been. And so yeah, I was also at a 2 here for Vic. Or sorry, for Austin.
For Austin. I was like, wait, are we in Vic already? What's going on? Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Austin had so much promise and just didn't have that fire, didn't have that drive, didn't want to do anything. Like, I mean, this is the first season in a long time where the person who wins like the first HOH doesn't get into the big giant alliance or get anything out of being the first HOH. I feel like it was like, she just hoped that people would come and talk to her and like didn't even try anything. It just, I mean, and then it was like that throughout the whole season. She just would hang out with Brayden, and that was about it. And even when it was her and Brayden on the block together, it wasn't like, okay, but now I got to like do my own thing. It was like they campaign together, and it was not good. I mean, and I think also it's like, it's a little unfair because I think that we look at Brayden a little differently than we do Austin now, because we got to see Brayden on his own and we never got to see Austin that way. But it's the truth. I do think that Austin just didn't have it. The one thing I will say is that I do think socially, like, you could drop her in any season and she could do pretty well socially, I think. So I do want to give her credit for that. And also she won a competition or 2, maybe, I don't remember. But the fact is she can win competitions. That's something that's good. So yeah, I'm going to give her a 3 because I could see a situation where you put her in another season and she does well, but I don't know if she's got that drive to actually do well. Like, I don't know if she cares. And that's what makes me a little concerned.
Yeah, if you put her on Big Brother 21, she's making like top 8 at least, you know what I mean? But I also agree that I don't think she could win regardless.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Austin also got a 2 from the audience. So there you go for Austin. And now we will talk about Victoria, who ended up leaving right after Austin, right after that invisible HOH week. So, Melissa, do you want to start with Vic?
Yeah, I can start. I as much as Victoria was a great character, she was not a great player. She targeted people who she didn't need to target and who really she shouldn't have targeted. It did a little bit seem like she was targeting women who she just didn't want working with the guys. I don't know. It was a little odd because it's like, okay, she targets Latoya, she targets Austin, because she wanted to work with like Ty and Jen. I don't know. It's like, I just didn't like that. And I feel like you put her in any season, and if she's going to have like issues with the women, then you're going to have a problem. Also, she just made some bad moves. She did some things that did not make any sense. She would trust people that she shouldn't have trusted. She had this whole like oddballs alliance, which like could have actually gone pretty far and done pretty well. And instead she kind of just threw it all away so that she could work again with Jed and Ty. And it's not great. But she is really good at competitions. And I don't know about really good, but she's good at competitions and she can hold her own. And I think that, she really does have the drive. I do think she has that. So I have to give her credit for that. However, she made a lot of bad moves, and I could see her making those bad moves over and over and over again. Like, I don't think it's one of those situations where it's like, well, this was like a weird situation. No, like I could absolutely see her making bad moves if you put her in another random situation. So, yeah, I have to give her a 3.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with Vic as well. I feel like she just constantly made decisions that were baffling at times. She won that first HOH. She targets Toya, which was a fine play. The way that she goes about it was not that fine, and left her very vulnerable the following week. But she got lucky with the comp outcome that following week. Kiefer wins, wants to take her under his wing. That's great. And we can say that we can say that her saying to Kiefer, "You're going up, but you're safe. Don't tell anyone." Was great social game from her, because he didn't end up targeting her the next week, and I'm cool with that. But she did not have a great social game with the other players in her alliance that she created, the oddballs, who all threw her under the bus the following week, and never had any real loyalty to her. She never, and then she lands in the chili peppers. What was it called? I don't even remember now. The Peppers Alliance, and they never had any loyalty to her, as shown by the fact that they then immediately voted her out, and Ghost Peppers, that's what it was, and evicted her. So she never had any allies, never any loyal allies. Kiefer turned on her, everybody turned on her, and she targeted the wrong people in her invisible HOH reign. She had no business targeting Austin. She absolutely should have targeted the people that were actually in power at that time. I think that the reason that she made it as far as she did is because she won competitions, and so she was immune for much of the season. In fact, there was let's see, there was only 1 week. She only survived 1 week without being immune, and that was the Kiefer week. She was then evicted on the second week that it was possible for her to be evicted. So yeah, it's a 3 from me. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I just hate to be just kind of saying what you guys are saying, but yeah, I'm totally, unfortunately, just in the same boat. I mean, I love Victoria. I could see Victoria next season, the season after that. Listen, I could watch her all day. Don't be mistaken for that. But I do think that, Victoria, unfortunately, is just not a great Big Brother player. You know what I mean? I got to give her some credit for, like actually having some kind of game tactics. I mean, to a certain extent, basically players would she was like a wind-up doll. You just kind of wind her up, and then she'd go do someone's bidding that they told her to. You know what I mean? And she wanted to do that, and she kind of wanted to play the game, and so I got to give her credit for that. But the game she actually played, just it wasn't great. It was she's just not that great at Big Brother, unfortunately. And I thought she just kind of was just so messy. And of course, we love messy players. I love to see it, but she was just so messy, too messy for her own good. There was kind of no way, like eventually the juice wasn't worth the squeeze to keep her at that point. And just, she had to go. Otherwise she was just too chaotic for anyone's good. No one could predict what she would do. No one could kind of control or like have any sense of like Victoria could change on a dime. And I think that's a very scary variable to have in the game. And so because of that, I'm gonna also just give her a 3. I mean, I'd see her back next season, but yeah, I thought for this season she just wasn't that great.
Yes, the audience gave her a 4. They're a little bit higher on Vic than us. So there you go, a 4 from the audience for Victoria. We are then going to move on to Rohan, who was evicted in the double eviction. Phil, why don't we start with you?
Yeah, okay. The Ro show is a very interesting player because, in the beginning of the season, there was that pendulum, swing between, one side and the other side. But then, once the Sunsetters kind of started winning a lot of the HOHs, then that's when Roe was really put in a bad spot. And I think because of that, that is kind of, I wouldn't say unlucky. The thing is that Roe, even for the oddball side, like Roe was kind of the one on top. He would always 100% be the one that was targeted first. And I think that reflected in him always needing to win those power vetoes to actually keep himself. And so, I mean, also props for him to actually be winning those power vetoes, but he still put himself in that position. And I just never saw, like, Roe had to win 3 vetoes back to back to back. And then, I wouldn't see a position where he'd continue just keep comping out over and over week after week after week. And I think he just would have had a hard time making it to the end by the position he was in early on. I don't think he's that bad of a player. And I give credit to him for winning the vetoes. And so because of that, on a mixed position, I'm going to give Roe a 5. Maybe that's too high. Maybe that's too low. I don't know. Or maybe it's just right. Yeah, I'm going to give Roe a 5 for the game.
Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying. I think that the fact that he kept having to win, like, I guess it's one of those things. It's a double-edged sword where it's like he kept winning vetoes, which is good. That's good. It means he can win competitions if you put him on a random season. However, the fact that he had to keep winning vetoes in order to stay, not so good. I think that he struggled a lot with his social game. I think that in terms of like strategy and things like that, he was not bad, but he couldn't really parlay that into like a good social game. So it was like he knew he knew the reasoning behind why he needed to have someone vote a certain way, but in order to like explain that to them, he tried to just explain the reasoning or whatever. And it was like, well, that's not, you have to like finesse it a bit. You have to like put it into good like terms that will make them want to vote that way. And I just feel like he didn't quite have that ability. So like, I would be a little concerned putting him into a random season. So yeah, I have to give him a 4.
Yeah. And Carpe Diem in the chat says he only had to win 1 veto, which is kind of true. But I think the issue is that he felt like he needed to win all 3, and then a 4th that he didn't win. Which is why he tried to win them instead of throwing them, which would have been very nice for him to do, because then he wouldn't have been such a huge target. Because when he was on the block next to Kyle, he thought that he was the target, and he felt like he needed to win that one. When Austin and Braden were on the block, he felt like he needed to win, or he would go up as a replacement, so he had to win that one. When he was then up on the block again, he obviously felt like he needed to win that one, and then in the double, he was on the block again and felt like he had to win. So it was 4 straight weeks of either on the block or could be on the block, and thus felt he needed to win those vetoes, which then put a bigger target on his back, which ultimately was a cycle of pain here for Roe. So the thing about Roe is that he did some good things. The week that Josh went home over Roe, I do like some of the things that Roe did. He helped convince Jed. He helped convince Ty to stay the course. He played it cool. He played it cool, calm, and collected.
What? Are you kidding me? I'm the most calm, cool, and collected person in this house.
But he also did some things wrong, like with Kyle approaching the wrong people, like getting into a fight with Kiefer unnecessarily, which led to a grudge that never went away. He did, again, though, have potential. He'd win vetoes, but couldn't win HOHs. He had potential. He would get, after Kyle left, he got in with Ty, Jed, and Beth. They were starting to like him. He was starting to get in with them, similar to what Braden was trying to do, but also similar to Braden, he ends up screwing it up in a different way than Braden did, but by going to Beth and trying to turn her on the guys in a way that he didn't need to. Beth was just trying to use him as a weapon. He didn't need to try to make her doubt the guys in the way that he was trying to. That ruins his chances with those guys. Back down. We also saw him, fall for the trap that Kiefer lays for him when he throws Victoria under the bus, which loses Victoria from the Oddballs Alliance. There were a lot of things that he did that did not play out super well. We talked about this as well, that he often would like Kyle had this sort of more emotional approach, and Ro had the more strategic approach when it came to talking with people. But I do think that he has potential, but it's not quite there for a 5 from me. So it's going to be a 4 from me, as well as Melissa. And then the audience gave Ro a 5. There you go. Highest rating
Right in the middle
so far from the audience, and highest rating overall so far in the game. There you go. Okay, let's move on to Tina. Tina's a really interesting one for me because she was getting high ratings, or somewhat high ratings, throughout most of the season, mostly because of her position and the fact that she was very good at not making mistakes. And in a season where everyone was making mistakes, she was not making mistakes, and her position was solid. She showed a lot of promise in the early game that she occasionally showed again, like during the week that she got Victoria backdoored. However, the week that she was evicted, she literally just laid down and died. And that was very, very, very poor gameplay. It felt to me like Tina had potential in the game that she didn't care to use all the time. She came in with a severe disadvantage. Again, as an older player in the game, that's going to be a big disadvantage, but I did feel like she had the chops to potentially overcome it, but it would have been a lot of hard work. It didn't feel like she was putting in that hard work all the time. She did end up just hanging out with Tara a lot. And ultimately, I felt that her performance was very disappointing. I do think that she has more potential than this rating will show. But based on her performance in this season, where she should have had a great run here, this was a great opportunity. The house was set up in a really great spot. I do think that she got unlucky with competition outcomes. I do. I think she would have been in a better spot without them. But the passivity for me is what kills it. Being passive in Big Brother is a really, really bad thing. It's never good. You can pretend to be passive while being active. That's not always what Tina was doing. So for me, I have to give Tina a 3. I just think she has such a hard road to win a game, and I don't know that she's ever going to put in the work to make it happen. It hurts. I feel like it should be higher. I feel like she has the potential to be higher, but I can't.
I totally agree. I mean, this is a hard one because it's like there was so much promise because she is intelligent. She is smart. She also was put in a very great position in the beginning. And so we were seeing that, oh, look at her position. She's in such a great spot. And she doesn't need to do that much either. Like right now in the beginning of the game, it's best if she doesn't do that much because then she can kind of hang back and still be protected. But there comes a point where like you do have to turn it on. You do have to step out there in front and actually play. And she never did that. And then even when she was on the block, she didn't do it. She couldn't win competitions. And yeah, I think Taran, you're right that like she automatically is in a harder spot going into a random season because she is like an older player who like we all were initially concerned wouldn't fit in with the group. I mean, luckily she did, and she did great, but like it could have gone another way. And if you plop her in any random season, like it could definitely go a bad way for her. And I don't know if she has the drive or the strategy or anything to actually like pull it off. So yeah, I'm between a 3 and a 4, to be honest, because I see the promise, but if you can't act on that promise, then like, what is there? So yeah, I'm gonna give her, I'm going to give her oh God. I feel like I'm going to give her a 3 because I'm disappointed. I don't know. I feel like, no, I guess here's my issue is it's similar to Austin where it's like, she has like the intelligence, she has the things there, but she just doesn't seem to care. So that's why I'm a little torn. However, like if I'm really comparing Tina and Austin, I do think Tina performed a little better generally. So I am a little bit in between. You know what? I'm going to give her 4. I'm just going to do it.
There you go.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely that. I mean, on top of all that, yeah, she was put into, the thing with Tina is that, she did have, like, she does have a good social game for sure. But of course, you guys were saying that, because she's an older player and if she's put on another season, who knows how well she'd do. But this season, I think she proved that she can get along with the younger players, and she was integrated into, the alliance with a lot of the younger players. And so I think that's like a great strength for Tina to be able to do that. Like, not a lot of the older players that have played Big Brother have been able to do that. They're out very early. So I have to give her immediate props for that. But then, yeah, just looking at the game, like you're saying, she's squandered her potential and she kind of eventually sat on it. I think a thing with Tina is that, I know she wasn't listening to the podcast, but I think Tina probably bought into her hype as well. You know what I mean? I think Tina was kind of like, all right, I'm chilling. I'm good with everybody. I'm good with Jed and Ty. I'm good with the all oddballs over here. I'm kind of set. I could just, coast on this. And then she kept doing that. She kept buying into that. And she kind of didn't know how to turn it on. I think, of course, we're not really talking about that, but if Tina's put on another season, she has huge winner upside because I think she knows exactly where she failed. So I would definitely, she might be my winner pick if she goes into another season, but we're just looking at this season. I think that just her social game alone gives her some credit. Like, there's some players that just don't have it, especially for someone like Tina. So I'm going to give Tina a 4. I think Tina definitely sat on her potential, but there's something there. There's definitely something there. I understand what you mean of if you can't make the move, if you can't be an active player, then you're just not a player at all. But I don't know. I'm at a 4 for Tina, I'd say.
Yeah, I think for me, like, thinking about it some more is that, like, if I do picture Tina on a different season, I feel like she's going to have a harder time. Because, again, I feel like this was a season that was set up well for Tina to do well. And I feel like there are a lot of players like Tina who are great socially and wouldn't make mistakes, but if they're too passive, they end up just being dragged along. And Tina was in a little bit more of a power position for a little bit longer, but never even really did much with it. And so that's just the thing for me. The audience, though, disagrees with me, as they have for much of the season, I think, when it comes to Tina. The audience gave Tina a 5.
Wow. I think they were expecting you to go higher on her. Honestly, I think that might be what it is.
I think I gave Tina a high rating at the start of the season, and then low ratings for the rest of the season. But people remembered the high one. So yeah. Okay, let's talk about Jed. Melissa, what do you think about Jed?
See, this was one of the ones I was a little confused on, because it's like, I think if you put Jed now into a season, I think he'd do really well because he would have learned from his mistake. But if you put,
because you said that before, but I've thought about this. Is it possible that this, like, Jed is now accepting the identity of, I have such a big heart. I can only play with my heart. I'm such a great guy. Can he only now play from that perspective and not do anything that would impede it?
Think so. I mean, I see what you're saying, but, like, I feel like if he gets another shot, he's going to be like, okay, yeah, I cannot do that again.
Well, I don't think he's ever using the veto on somebody that's next to him on the block again. I'll say that.
True. But yeah, I feel like he might go into another season being like, I don't want to be that guy who loses because of his heart. I want to, like, play with my head this time. And I feel like I could see that happening. So I don't know. For me, I think that Jed is a smart guy. I don't think he's a dumb guy. I think he made an error, but I think also it was like, he's easily influenced. And I think that a lot of everyone around him was essentially telling him, like, this is what you need to do. Like, this is the right move. And he trusted them. He's too trusting. And I think that's a downfall for him for sure. However, I do think that he's a smart guy, and I think that he's athletic. And I think that he's really good socially. So I could see him doing well. But yeah, I think he's easily manipulated. And he didn't win that many competitions, right? Like, didn't he only win like one?
He won,
so.
I think two or three. Yeah.
Three, actually. He won 3.
Oh, did he? I thought he just won one veto. Okay. That changes a little bit, but not really. Overall, I think I do see Jed as one of the better players on the season. And I think that if he didn't make his grave error, I think we'd all be saying Jed's like one of the greater players to play. Like, in terms of like, definitely with this cast, I probably would have put him as number 1. I mean, for the longest time, we were saying it's his game to lose. He's going to win this thing. And then he made that big mistake. And so I do think that totally brings him down, but I don't think it brings him down to the level of some of the other players. So for me, because everyone's a little bit down, I basically, by the way, I'll have you know, I basically took my ratings that I did earlier and brought everyone down 1 because I was like, oh, I'm a little too generous right now. So, but yeah, I'm going to give Jed a 5.
Okay. Yeah, see, Jed, for me, my instinct is to go 3. And that's because Jed, of all the players in the triangle, was the most indecisive, the most flip-floppy, the quickest to believe a lie, and the guy who nominated Kiefer only to keep him and then have Kiefer orchestrate his eviction in the most humiliating fashion ever. But at the same time, where Tina is penalized for who she is, the fact that she's a little bit older, the fact that she's not going to win as many competitions, Jed benefits from the fact that he is a very handsome, charming competition person who can win lots of competitions, and will fit into a lot of casts, whereas Tina may have a little bit more trouble, right? So Jed has that sort of natural advantage there. But he was so bad at the game in so many different ways that it's hard. It's hard to give somebody who used the veto on somebody who sat next to him on the block. Like the weird thing is that I don't think that's gonna happen most of the time. But it did happen this time, and it's the only time we're talking about right now. I'm trying to extrapolate to other scenarios, but if the fact that we're 1 for 1, he used the veto on somebody sitting next to him, and you know what? This is what solves it for me. This is what because I was about to give him a 4, but then I remembered that he said that he came into the game wanting to make that move. He came into the game wanting to use the veto on somebody sitting next to him. That's what made it possible for people to come up with the idea and to execute the idea to make it happen. And because of that, I actually do think
did he say that?
Yeah, I do think it's likely that he ends up using the veto on the person sitting next to him.
In the preseason?
Don't love that. Don't love that. I did not hear him say that.
That's literally how Kiefer came up with it. He was like, Jed has said that he wants to do that at some point. And Jed said afterwards in exit interviews that he said, I came in, I wanted to make that, I came in thinking about wanting to make that move. It's never been done before in the history of the show. Yeah, I have to give him a 3. I have to. What am I supposed to do, Jed? I think that he can win a season. Absolutely. I think that he can comp win his way through a season. Absolutely. But you know what? If the competition direction continues in the way that it is, then maybe not. So, yeah, I gotta give him a 3.
Yeah, for me, I'm kind of in the camp of like, for most of the season, Jed did have a lot of power. And so first of all, credit to him for kind of asserting, having a lot of power over the house and kind of the decisions. But that being said, his actual management and handling of this power might have been, like mismanaged and mishandled. I think a lot of the time, like you were saying, Taran, he's like very, very flip-floppy and he's it was kind of annoying sometimes, just like watching him kind of listen to something that someone said and then changing his mind and then listening to something else someone else said and changing his mind. So I think that that being said, it's very hard for me to kind of gauge like how good of a player he actually is. But still with all the power he had in the game. And I think that, like to what you were saying, Melissa, about Jed, like if Jed made it to the end, like he would have won. People would have said that he's one of the great players. I think that there's definitely the potential of that, but that didn't happen, you know. And I think that, you know, Taran, you were saying that, you know, you would see that like he would never make that move, or I guess now you're saying he did, but you were saying that like Jed would never, like this is the one season that Jed would make the move to give the veto to Beth. But I think that would happen on a lot of other different seasons, just because Jed is a trusting guy. You know, I think, I'm not saying he would do that on every season, but I think Jed would show his trust. And I think in order to prove that, he would do something like that. And so because of that, I can't be too high on him, but sorry, that was just a ramble, but I do think that because of the power he had in the game, I can't discount it too much. You know what I mean? And so because of that, I'm going to kind of slide right in the middle of y'all too, and I'm going to give him 4.
Okay. The audience gave Jed 5. Gave him 5.
Yeah.
They agreed with Melissa.
I think a lot of it is just because he was like the big narrator of the season, like I was saying before. And I think just, you know, because of that, it's like, all right, I guess he was somewhat of a decent player, which I guess is, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Beth. Let's talk about Beth. Okay, Beth. I'll talk about Beth. So my instinct on Beth was that she was at least a little bit better than Jed, but then I went, but was she? And I kind of feel like she wasn't. And I feel like, I mean, ultimately, Beth, I think Kiefer was the most influential player in the game. I think Beth was the second most influential player, if not only for the atrocious move of trying to get Tara to nominate Brayden and Ty. It was such a bad move that it literally changed the outcome of the season. If she doesn't make that move, Ty goes on the block next to Jed, and none of anything that happens afterward. And she's in a considerably better position to win the game. And the thing is, she wasn't in danger. She was fine. She literally kept Tara in the game in order to go after Jed and Ty. The thing that she had wanted was about to happen, and all she needed to do was nothing. And instead, she did something and changed the outcome of the entire game and put herself in a terrible position in the game. And it was I cannot even comprehend, like, obviously using the veto on somebody else is worse, but still, I feel like Beth, I can't give Beth the 4 that my instinct was gonna give her. I have to also give Beth the 3. I feel like Beth did not have good jury management. I think she perhaps could have won in the end, but I also feel like she gave herself a lot of credit for a lot of things, and she didn't earn the credit for those things. And I don't want to be tricked by her into thinking that she earned the credit for those things. The first move that she made that was on her own was the Victoria move, and on that move, she backpedaled and went back and forth so many times that she completely trashed the actual benefit that she would received from it, and then followed it up with the whole Kiefer play, which went back and forth, and ultimately she let Kiefer stay in the game, which she absolutely should not have done, and then is ruined by Kiefer the following week, where she makes the terrible move that week, and then she barely survives the final 5, only to be evicted again in the next final 5. I can't give her a 4. I think I like that she was almost self-interested, but I can't give her the 4. It has to be a 3 again for Beth. Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I definitely think that by the end game, Beth was just, her chances were completely squandered. But I don't know. We keep talking about potential. There's something so, I know I kind of just talk a lot about like what happened in the beginning of the game versus what like the final moves, because those matter the most. But I do have to kind of give Beth some credit of like trying to, you know, straddle these two guys and get in between, you know, the two of them and try to put them, the target ahead of her. Like, I think she kind of clearly in the beginning of the game after Latoya was gone, she outlined that as her primary strategy, and it kind of worked for her for the most part until, you know, everything blew up and then it didn't work. But I kind of have to give her credit for actually having a plan, having a strategy, and kind of following through on that for like all of her season, basically.
I don't mean to interject or contradict you, but you're reminding me of how frustrated I am with Beth and the fact that she did want Toya out, but spent the entire week that Toya was on the block trying to save her and failing and not realizing that she was about to leave, which is the exact same thing she does later in the game when she talks about wanting Ty and Jet out and then tries to save them and fails, and it ruins her game again. Like,
yeah, I mean, okay, yeah.
That wasn't meant as an argument. It was just meant, I just needed to get it out.
No, yeah, I mean, Beth is definitely a frustrating, definitely made me want to rip my hair out sometimes. But I think overall, and just talking about how, like, if you put Beth on a lot of different seasons, how she do, I don't know. I still think Beth would do okay. I don't know. I'm not like down on her, like you guys are. I don't know. I'm going to give Beth a 4. Maybe that's too high, but and maybe it's just kind of even just being like results oriented because she made it further in the game with her plan that she outlined. But yeah, I'm going to give Beth a 4. Yeah, I don't know.
All right, Melissa.
Yeah, I think I am as well going to give Beth a 4. I love the drive that she has, and I love that she has the passion to win, and I love that she will do whatever it takes, and she'll betray anybody, and she'll just like, I love that. The thing that concerns me, and there are a few things that concern me, is number one, she said that she didn't want to work with women. And I feel like that is a little.
What is that?
Okay, but yeah, I honestly, I love this cattail going around. But yeah, no, she said she didn't want to work with women, and I feel like if you come into the house automatically wanting to work with only half the house, like that's not good. And I didn't like that. I also felt like she kind of squandered her opportunity to get in with other people other than the trio. Like I feel like she was kind of seen as. It was kind of seen that like in the beginning, not in the beginning, I guess, but like in the beginning of the end game, it was kind of viewed as like Ty and Jed are together and Beth is kind of like Yoko Onoing them, I guess. And it's like kind of coming in between, but like, she's still a little bit on the outs. Then it switched and it was like, okay, it's Jed and Beth and that's what's going on. But like prior to that, she kind of seemed like she was on the outs and she could have used that and worked with like Brayden or with Tara and been like, hey, like I'm on the outs here. Like I can't beat them. They're going to take each other. Like I want to work with you guys, and found some sort of way to work with other people. And I thought that's what she was doing, but she then was like, I want to get rid of Brayden because he's annoying to me. It's like, that is not what you should be doing. So I feel like it's like, she kind of has the right idea, but then like doesn't know how to accomplish those ideas. And I feel like she tries to do too much, but then also does too little. It's like, it's not full solid strategy right there when it comes to Beth. So I have to give her a 4 because I do think that in comparison to some of the other people that we've rated, she does have the drive. She does have the passion. She does have that cutthroat energy. And I do love that.
Yeah, just to kind of add on to what you were saying, Melissa, I also just, what I like about Beth a little bit is that she tries to be aware of the perception of her. Like, I think a much lesser player would definitely kind of just like ride it out with Jed and just whatever, make it to the end and whatever happens, happens. But I think, I'm not sure if she actually would have made the move against Jed, but she was willing to consider a lot of that kind of stuff. She was willing to consider, what do I need to do to actually like put myself in the final position that that I could win the game. You know what I mean? She was thinking about that, which I think is, a good thing that I think a lesser player wouldn't be. But yeah.
All right. Well, the audience is with you guys on Beth. They gave her a 4. So there you go. Let's move on to Ty is not next. It is Kiefer. Let's talk about Kiefer. This is an interesting one. I'm very curious to see where it goes.
Can we do the audience first?
Can we do the audience first? Let's do the audience first. The audience gave Kiefer a 6. 6 out of 10 for Kiefer. There you go.
That's actually my score as well.
There we go.
I feel like Kiefer is one of the best players in this game, or in this Big Brother Canada 9, not the game. But I think that he was really good socially. And I also think that he was good at competitions. And I also think that he was really good strategically. I feel like he had like the triple threat, but then he was his own worst enemy. So it's like he has those 3 things and he's all working well, but then it's like he just ruins it for himself with like it's either his ego or it's his self-doubt. I feel like it's like both of those things. It's like it's just emotional. I don't know. And so it's like he's good at competitions, good at socially, good strategically, and yet he like self-sabotages by either being like, well, it's over for me, I give up, I'm just going to lose anyway, or being like, I'm so good, I'm going to win and no one can stop me. And it's like it's just it ruins it because he's got so much going for him. And I think that the fact that he's able to pull off some of these big moves was so impressive. I mean, you've got him orchestrating Jed using the veto on Beth. You've got him like saving himself when he was about out the door. I think yes, we could argue all we want that like, well, it's also the cast that he's with. Do you think he really could convince anyone else that of any of these things? Maybe he could. I don't know. Maybe he could. I think I just feel like the one thing also that he doesn't quite have going for him, and I think part of the reason why he's not as ranked as high is like if you put him in a random season, I thought he was going to be one of the first boots because he's like a classic first boot. So I could see a situation where he gets put in a random season and is a first boot. Like he doesn't even get the chance to show that he actually can do well. I just feel like there are a lot of flaws to Kiefer's game, but there are also a lot of positives. And I think if we're looking at this cast as a whole, I think that he's got like probably the top spot, maybe tied for top.
Bill, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, Kiefer, spoiler alert, I think he is like one of the best players of the season. I think there's even no way, it's not even a spoiler, just because if Kiefer made it to the end, I think Kiefer would definitely win the game just because of everyone's perception on the jury about how great Kiefer's game was. And then thinking about just kind of Kiefer's game overall, I definitely think his social game was lacking. And I do think that, a lot of like what you were saying, Melissa, I also thought that when Kiefer, when I saw Kiefer and when I read his bio and when I heard him talk about the game and how much of a fan he was, I was kind of just worried about him. I was like, I don't know if this guy could actually, pull it off in the house. And I think like a lot of, I think Kiefer was definitely lucky that he was kind of put into that alliance very early on and put into a good position. And then people kind of, were more, endeared. Kiefer kind of endeared everyone and, people started to, people like Kiefer, but I definitely think that Kiefer's social game overall left a lot to desire for sure. And then kind of when we think about actually Kiefer's strategic game, it's interesting because I think that because Kiefer kind of was one of the best players of the season, and I think Kiefer definitely knew that, and or at least he thought that, you know what I mean? I think that kind of played into Kiefer's own like self-narrative of like, I'm the best player. I don't really like whatever I'm doing is right. And so everyone else is not a good player and I'm a good player. And so because of that, I honestly kind of felt like he made a lot of mistakes because of that, because he kind of just assumed that he was like this really, really great player. With that being said, so it's kind of like a very mixed bag. But I do think that overall he was a decent player. I'm not sure how he would do in an all-star season. I'm not even sure how he'd do if he played 100 times. But on this particular season that Kiefer played, and the fact that he made it to the Final Four, and if he won that Final Four, veto, and I think there was definitely a way, like Kiefer could have won the game easily. And so you can't really discount that. And so because of that, I'm going to give Kiefer a 6 as well. That's how I'm feeling about him.
There you go. So I've been between a 6 and a 7 for Kiefer, but 7 just doesn't feel right to me. The problem is that I do think I've been thinking, like, I feel like he was the best player on this season, and if I give Kiefer a 6, that means I can't give anyone else a 7, and that's potentially where I'm leaning with other people, and so but I can't do that. So I've been thinking this through, and there's going to be more explanation later, but I'm at a 6 for Kiefer as well. I think that I do think he was the best player on the season. I think that he easily had the most amount of influence over the season. I think easily had the best strategic mind of the season. But unfortunately, that is not saying a whole lot for the strategic element of the season. He did make a lot of mistakes. He did come up short in some social elements. He came very close to being betrayed by his own allies. He did get out of it, and he had great jury management, and a lot of things were working in his favor. But at the end of the day, he spent way too much time working for other people, in particular, the trio and Ty ultimately. And so, I mean, there are too many things. He was on the block week 2 as a target because he rooted against Austin in the HOH competition, and then was her target that week. That could have blown everything up. He wins the veto, which is great for him. But if he doesn't win competitions, he's never going to be respected in the game in the way that he was. The competition wins were what helped make him respectable, because before that, nobody listened to a word he said. I just think that this season was the perfect storm for Kiefer. Flaws and all, and it worked out in the way that it needed to work out for Kiefer to be the player that Kiefer wanted to be, and I'm not sure that it plays out in another way for Kiefer on another season. So I definitely want to give respect to Kiefer for his Big Brother Canada 9 game. I do think that he played the best Big Brother Canada 9 game, and he definitely was the driver of most of the action. But it is going to be a 6 from me, which is going to make it straight 6s. There you go. Okay, we got through Kiefer. Let's talk about Tara, our third place finisher, Tara. Let's start with Bill on Tara.
Yeah, Tara is a very interesting player because, basically for the first, 7 weeks, everyone kind of thought, okay, Tara's done. Tara's the GOAT of the season, whatever. We don't have to really worry about, we'll just kind of play around Tara. We'll drag Tara to the end. And that's kind of what happened. But, after Tara got evicted, the narrative completely shifted. And so people definitely, when Tara, fought her way back into the game, which of course that's a very lucky thing, isn't it? It's very lucky that she was able to get evicted and then win a battle back. And so good for her, but it's definitely a lot of luck. But because of that, her perception in the jury definitely changed. And I think even for us, it's kind of like, okay, Tara's a fighter. And then, Tara won that HOH, there was, it was before, but, Tara was definitely building up, her resume kind of late in the game. She was winning those competitions. And so I think that definitely, made everyone kind of a little bit higher on Tara. But for most of the season, Tara kind of wasn't giving us anything. And I think that is the ultimate, the thing that I'm really looking at when I look at Tara's game. Is just when I look at her complete package, I'm not sure what she was giving me. And so because of that, I am unfortunately going to give Tara a 3. I think she has a lot of fight. And I think in the end, she kind of proved I'm a force to be reckoned with. Maybe I could win this game, but overall, when I'm looking at the whole package, the whole picture, I had a 3 for Tara.
Yeah, it's I went over Tara's entire game. We're now into people that I went through their entire game, right? And I do believe that Tara is overall a better player than Brayden. I think she'll do better more often than Brayden will in terms of being an active player. But Brayden will likely outlast Tara more often and thus be in a position to potentially comp out and win a jury vote in the way that he did, and thus is overall a better player than Tara in the potential outcome results oriented way of thinking, which is the way that we're thinking. Or at least predictive outcome results oriented thinking. So with that in mind, Tara was definitely a more active player, but a lot of her actions failed. A lot of her actions ended up resulting in the opposite happening throughout the game. And she did follow the classic sort of path of don't be worth evicting until you get to the end game and then win a few competitions and have a chance at it, which can be effective if you are lucky and you're one of the people that makes it there. But I don't have a lot of faith that she can replicate that. And ultimately, when it comes down to it, she's always going to have a little bit of trouble winning those end game competitions. I think that this was the best setup that she could have had because the competitions were the most equitable that they could have been. And in other seasons, it would have been more and more of a blowout, even than it was when we got that throwing part 2. So for me, I think I also have to go with a 3 for Tara. Not to mention the fact she was evicted and came back, which is not necessarily a knock on her game overall. But if we're thinking of her as a final 3 contender to win, you have to consider the fact that she was in fact evicted at the final 5. And again, people will argue that she shouldn't have been evicted at the final 5 because it wouldn't have been a double eviction. But we've talked about that already. So yeah, it's gonna be a 3 from me. Melissa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think that Tara has the drive to win. I think she wants to win, which is important. But I think the issue with Tara is that she just couldn't find her footing throughout the majority of the game. She didn't really have anyone who wanted to work with her aside from Tina. And then when she got to the end game and people were looking for allies because they had lost most of their allies, even then they would work with her and then immediately turn on her. So it wasn't even a situation where it was she was gaining allies once you kind of narrowed down the field a bit. She didn't even have that. She also made some bad decisions. Even as it came down to the end game, she got power and then put Brayden on the block. It just didn't make any sense. She got evicted. But I do think that she's got the fight, she's got the drive, and she can win competitions. And if she had gotten to the final 2, she probably would have won. So you have to give that to her, that she does, have some, I guess, good jury relations, which I guess is important. So for me, I'm a little torn because I see her in a similar position to someone like Austin, where Austin didn't seem to have that many allies and she wasn't really doing much in the beginning. And I have to ask myself, do I think that if Austin got to this point that she would have done what Tara did, that she would have gotten as far as Tara did? And I don't know if I see that because I think that Tara has more drive. And I think that the competitions really certainly help her. So, I gotta give Tara a 4.
All right. The audience even higher on Tara. They gave her a 5. There you go.
Wow, that's crazy.
Not expecting that.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Brayden. Melissa, we'll start with you.
This is really hard for me. I think partially I'm looking at it a little bit differently because he ended up in the final 2. But I do think that I don't know. I feel similarly to him as I do to Austin. I feel like he's I do feel like he has the social game. The social ability is there. The strategic ability, I don't see it. And it's not like one of those situations where we just didn't get the chance to see it. Because we had the chance. He had the chance to show us his strategic chops, and I didn't see it. And I also didn't see the desire to win. However, if we put him in a random season, I could see him going really far because he's got really good social game. And he also, isn't seen as a strategic threat. So people are more willing to bring him along. He plays a passive game. And that will take you far, but will it give you the win? I don't know. Like, do I see his strategy there? Not really. But it's tough for me because, like, I have to be honest, I'm vacillating between a 3 and a 4, and the fact that he got to the final 2 makes me want to give him a 4, but I just don't see anything that he did as something that got him to the final 2. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like everything was like around him, moves were being made around him, but he wasn't really doing anything. And I think that if he didn't end up in the final 2, I would be looking at him in a different way. But he did get to the final 2, and people did want to bring him along. People did want to work with him. God. Yeah, I'm going to give him a 4.
All right, Phil.
Yeah, for me, I'm definitely, he's kind of like the anti-Kiefer in a way, where it's like, or like, like Kiefer has a lot of the strategic play, but the social game might not entirely be there. And then I kind of feel the opposite way about Brayden, where I kind of feel like Brayden is a great social player, and just because people just like hanging out with him, people like living in a house with him, they'll throw him into the alliance just because it's like, okay, he's kind of cool. I don't mind him, and I think he did a great job at the end, with his relationship with Ty. I think they were both, like, Ty was definitely working Brayden, but I think Brayden was definitely kind of, in the beginning of it, Brayden was kind of working Ty. He didn't have that many options, of course, but, I think Brayden, again, socially, he kind of is able to put himself into basically any alliance he really wanted to be in, for the most part. And so with that being said, he has a lot of strengths as a player, but like you were saying, Melissa, it's just that, like, we've seen the whole season of Brayden, and he kind of just didn't give us anything. You know what I mean? Like, he had that he has a great social game, but, like, you got to have the game tactics to go along with it. That's just how you play Big Brother. That's how you win Big Brother. And, I feel like Brayden had a couple competitions at the end. That's definitely good, but it just was not enough. Like, Brayden had basically exerted no influence over any of the game, period. And so because of that, I'm gonna be at a 3 with Brayden, just because a lot of the time I just look at who had a lot of the influence over the game. I mean, I gave Julie a 3, so what do I know? But it's definitely like, when we're looking at the end of the game, it's like, who had a lot of the influence while they were in the house? You know what I mean? And I think Brayden just didn't really have any of that, regardless, even though he was a great social player. So because of that, I'm gonna give him a 3.
Yeah. So thinking generally about Brayden's game, because this is another one that I had trouble with, my instinct is a 4, and it feels easy because, like, okay, not threatening, easy to get along with, decent chance of surviving to the end game, but very passive. That's about a 4 from me, usually, but then I remember, please use the veto on us. I remember, like, barely a single conversation in the house before Austin left without Austin being there. I remember saying, that's fine, I trust you, I can go on the block. And I just can't get past that last one in particular, because I genuinely think that, more than anything else, is what cost him the win in the end. Because if you're Brayden, what he told me in his exit interview is that he felt like it was the necessary move, that he was playing his part in taking Jed out of the game. But I don't think it seems like that to anybody else but him. It seems like to everybody else that he is on the wrong end of that stick. And I think if he says no, and let's say Ty goes on the block instead and they still get Jed out, or the whole thing goes kaput and they don't get Jed out, instead they get Beth out, Who cares, Brayden? What does that change for your game, really? I mean, I know that they were terrified of Jed, but Jed loses to Tara in a one-on-one ball competition. He was not unbeatable. And keeping Jed in the game would have kept people in the game like Jed, who would have been targets ahead of you, which would have been great. And it would have shown that you had more agency in the game than you did, because Ty would have gone up on the block next to Beth, and Beth probably would have gone home. You would have been able to keep Ty still, and Ty would not have had the credit of not being on the block. He would not have had the credit of being able to have gotten rid of Jed on his own. Like, there are so many things that Brayden would have been in a better position for, I think, had he just said no to going on the block, which is just such a no-brainer to me. So yeah, it's got to be a 3. It's got to be a 3 for me as well.
Yeah, I want to switch my Brayden and Tara to 3s, but I'm going to keep my 4s because I'm just gonna stick with it.
All right. The audience, if I can find it, gave Brayden a 4.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I Melissa, I mean, I don't think a 4 is like, it's not a bad score at all. You know what I mean? Like a 4, like he definitely has like a great social game. And there's a lot to his game that I feel like, especially on a second season, he might be able to deliver more on. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I think.
Yeah, I feel like I forgot about the whole, like, oh yeah, you can put me on the block thing. And I kind of now thinking about that makes me so mad.
I was like all set to be like, he's a 4. And then I remembered.
Yeah, that's so bad. I mean, it's interesting that the audience gave Tara a better score than Brayden. I'm surprised.
It was very close. It was very close. Tara barely made the 5, and he was just short of the 5. But yeah, yeah. I think
these ratings are very low.
I'm willing to bet. First of all, I think when somebody loses a jury vote, that tends to be bad for them in terms of how they're seen as a player. And then also, I think that Tara doesn't like. I also think that Tara putting Brayden up was a bad move. But it's not quite as like, as volunteering or like being okay with going up on the block. So having such a visible negative might have hurt him as well. Because ultimately, I do think that I would rate Brayden higher than Tara if it came down to it. But yeah. Okay. Here we go. We're down to the final one. It's our winner, Ty. Well, let's start with the audience on Ty. The audience, probably unsurprisingly, gave Ty a 6 as well. So the 2 highest ratings, Ty and Kiefer from the audience. Okay. Phil.
Taran first.
I can go first.
Yeah, you go first, Taran.
All right.
Yeah, you go first.
All right, I'll go first on Ty. Okay, so because this requires a little bit of explanation, I think, because like I said, I do think that Kiefer was the best player of the season, for the season. But when I was thinking about Ty and I was thinking about like where I want to place him as a winner, I'm thinking about him as a winner. It didn't feel right to me to go with a 6, and that's why it was so hard for Kiefer, because Kiefer didn't feel right at a 7. And so I've been going back and forth about like, why does it feel that way in my head? Are my feelings wrong, or is there something that I'm not calculating? And I've been thinking about it, and ultimately, I do think that even though I do think Kiefer played a better game than Ty, I think that Ty would perform better than Kiefer in most seasons.
Absolutely.
And I think that comes down to the charm that he has, the fact that, yes, this season had great equitable competitions, but in many others, Ty is probably going to perform better than Kiefer in many of them. And even in this season, Ty performed better than Kiefer in the endgame competitions that were equitable. And also, Kiefer, who was so influential in this game, did a lot of work for Ty, not on Ty's behalf, or not on Ty's behest. Like Ty didn't order Kiefer to do any work, but on his behalf, that Kiefer wanted to do work because he wanted to keep Ty in the game, because he chose Ty. Ty was a likable guy, and that definitely helped him with Kiefer, winning Kiefer to his side. And it also, I'm sure, like, because and I think back to like Ty arguing with Kiefer, not wanting to take Kyle out, trying to talk Kiefer into taking out Victoria or Austin instead, and Kiefer saying no, Kyle's the glue, Kyle needs to go. Again, I think that Kiefer definitely was strategically on a higher level than Ty this season, but I think that Ty has other qualities that make up for that, to at least put him on par with Kiefer, if not higher. And I think that is the charm, the competition abilities, and I cannot understate this enough, the cutthroatedness, the willingness to turn on his allies, which is not something that Kiefer really had. Even though Kiefer turns on Jed turned on him first. And Kiefer never really turned on Ty. So for me, when I'm thinking about Ty as a winner and I'm thinking about Ty as a player and I'm putting Ty in a random season, I'm not going to bring up the laundry list of things Ty did wrong in the season, because there is a laundry list of them, like the Kyle thing, like the Ro and Josh thing. But this is where in particular I'm like, did that happen because he was surrounded by other people who were also making such terrible mistakes all the time? Would he make such terrible mistakes if he were to go in the season? Would it matter? I'm not sure. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go with the 7. I don't know how great I feel about it, but it's where I stand on Ty. So yeah, that's my lengthy explanation on that one. Okay, Phil, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm personally, I definitely think that Ty played a good game, and Ty is a good winner. And as a winner, I'm very happy that he won the season. I don't have any, ill or anything. But with Ty as a player, he's definitely someone. What kind of frustrated me a lot about Ty throughout the game, even with the Jed thing, is that he's someone who is very, very easily influenced by basically the people who he was around with, right? Like, if it's not Kiefer, then it's Jed, or it's Beth. It was always kind of people just kind of telling him things, and he'd, of course, you could play the sound clip, Taran. He'd just get hyped for it. You know what I mean?
We caught, didn't we? Oh, girl. Hey, BB, this game was always us from the start.
I just wanted to play that one.
I mean, but that's exactly kind of what frustrated me a lot about Ty. He kind of just listened to what other people would tell him, and then eventually he was able to kind of cut the people who listened to what, or cut the people who was telling him to do things. You know what I mean? Which is definitely a good thing, and I think that's something that something that a good player would do. But it's still like, I don't know. I because of that, he didn't have like 100% influence. Like, it wasn't always his decisions of what was kind of going on. Ty is definitely someone that kind of just went with the flow a lot of the time. And so because of that, I mean, of course, like you were saying, I think if you put Ty on a lot of seasons, Ty would probably do pretty well, because he's a charming, good looking, fun guy. And who wouldn't want to hang out with Ty? So I think that factors a lot into it just because of his social game. But strategically, I don't know. He's cutthroat, but I don't know if he actually has a great, really. I mean, he has a solid mind for the game for sure, but I don't know if he has a really mastermind, mind for the game. So because of that, I'm gonna give Ty a 6. Still a winner I'm proud of, but yeah, that's kind of how I feel about him overall in this season.
Yeah, and it's another one, like the more I scrutinize his game, the more I find faults with it, like with many of the others. But yeah, it's this one is more of a feeling than a solidly anything else, I think, for me. But Melissa, go ahead.
No, and I absolutely agree with what both of you guys are saying. Like, I think you're both right in that, he would do well on a random season because he's so charming, and because he's got that great social game, and because, it's Ty. And I think that he that's all in the positive column. And then you've got the fact that, you know, he's also cutthroat. And I feel like that allows him to do well. He's not going to sit there and just be blindly loyal to whoever. He's going to make sure that he cuts people when he needs to cut them and, you know, just move on. But I feel like there's also some negatives in that, like, you know, he is so cutthroat and he's not really strategic about that in terms of like jury management. Thank God that didn't matter this season, but I could see on any random season that would put people, you know, off, you know, saying enjoy jury and all that sort of stuff. That's not so great. And that, you know, he also, like Phil said, is really easily influenced. It seems like it seems like Jed convinced him to try and vote out Kiefer. And then it seemed like Kiefer convinced him to try and vote out Jed. It was like, if he had been solidly from the beginning, like, look, I know I have to cut Jed because like, I'm not going to be there. Then I'd be like, okay, yeah, he knew it all along. He's just using this as an opportunity to do it. But I do feel like if Kiefer had never said, you now need to cut Jed because of XYZ, he would have been like, yeah, Jed and Beth and I are going to go to the finals. Like, I don't know if he really would have had that in him. Maybe he did. I don't know. But also the fact that he won is making me like, want to give him a higher score. I mean, clearly he didn't, nothing that he did was so off-putting to the jury that they didn't want to vote for him. So like, you know, he won this game. That's impressive. And in and of itself, especially on a season like this. So I do really like Ty and I'm so happy that he won, but I am a little concerned in terms of like his strategic ability in a random season. I don't know if people would like convince him to do something that's really bad for his game. Like, I don't know. It like luckily worked out for him this time around, but who knows? So yeah, I do, while I love him as a winner and I love him as a person, I'm going to give him a 6.
Okay, there we go. That is it for the ratings. So what we have here is Kiefer and Ty at 6s. Ro at a 5. Everyone else is below a 5. That's Brayden, Tara, Beth, Jed, Tina, Kyle, Toya, all at 4s. Then Victoria and Julie, who I put question marks next to just for everyone that was not quite able to understand that we don't know anything about Julie's game, and those are guesses. Those two are at 3s. And then we have Austin and Josh down at 2s. So that is what we have there. I did also ask specifically about Ty, that where would you rank Ty as a winner? Best winner, top tier, middle tier, bottom tier, worst winner, or with the winners, there's an extra category, the God tier of winner, which actually is, I shouldn't have said best because it's actually that's still best is still above, or I guess within God. Either way, what do you guys say in regards to Ty ranking as a winner of I guess Big Brother can did I specify? I asked a Big Brother Canada winner. Yeah, well let's just say just in general. Just not necessarily thinking about like what is the number, just like what is your gut instinct? Ty is a winner. What tier?
I think he's in the top half.
What is that? Is Melissa? I gave you 6 options, and you chose
like
an
your
option that's
options.
not one of the options.
I don't like your options. I don't like it. I mean, look, like for me, I have to say, like when I was writing it out, I rated him as 4 on the list. But he sometimes when I look at it, I'm like, maybe he's 5. Maybe I want to switch this one. So I think like 4, maybe 5.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if we're looking at like all the winners, he's probably top tier, but like in the middle. Okay, I mean, he's middle. He's for me, he's even when looking at the Big Brother Canada winners, he definitely like, again, like I'm always talking about this, but he had a lot of like power and influence for most of the game. You got to give him credit for that, but he was never like 100% running things like and just him alone. You know what I mean? He wasn't his overall strategic play wasn't. It left a lot to be desired. I don't know. For me, yeah, he's kind of in the middle tier of winners, I'd say, but on the higher side of the middle for sure.
Well, the audience says Middle tier. Nearly 50% of the audience says middle tier. And then about 30% says top tier. And then 10% says bottom tier. There's let's see, how many people? There are 15 people that say he's the greatest of all time. And 3 say that he's the worst winner. Okay,
I don't,
3.
I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
Well, Nick and Phil, maybe.
Yeah, I know. For real. Taran, what do you say?
I would say probably middle tier. For Ty. If we're talking about like the entirety of winners, if we're talking about Big Brother Canada, it's probably top tier. But you know, it's again, I have 6 categories and there's 8 winners, so it's a really hard one.
Also, something about Ty's game I do want to bring up is that I've been getting a lot of like messages and stuff lately saying that like, why, Melissa and Taran, did you guys not talk about the fact that Ty was never nominated? And I feel like that is something we talked about like the entire episode for the finale, being like, he should have mentioned it. Why didn't he say it? Why didn't he say it? Like, what more do you guys want us to say about it? Like, what else can we say besides the fact that like he wasn't nominated and we wish that he had brought it up? Like,
Yeah,
what am I missing here?
Well, here's the thing about not being nominated. Like, I mean, it's happened a few times now, but you know, it's sort of like Dan has this record of like never being on the block post veto except for week 2 of Big Brother 10, which is like, it's nice. But it's not what makes Dan a great player, right? Like the Derek one, the fact that it was Battle of the Block and he still avoided nominations like every single time, that one's pretty impressive. But for the most part, it's like, okay, it's a nice statistic. But like, how much work did Ty put in to make sure that that happened? You could arguably say that the Tara week, he put some work in and managed to avoid the block. Other weeks, you can say like the people that he had good relationships with. One, Kiefer helped his relationship with Victoria, which is why he survived the block. And again, his relationship with Victoria additionally helped him survive the block when Victoria won. But I think one of the big things here is that like he certainly would have ended up on the block with a lot of other HOH wins. Cody's somebody who recently never touched the block. Cody's also somebody who could have touched the block with certain HOH wins, probably fewer than Ty. It was usually like 1 or 2 people per week, whereas with Ty it was probably closer to like half the house, or if not the majority of the house at times. So you know, it's a nice statistic. It's not going to be like, I think, the main selling point for Ty. I don't think it's the most impressive thing that Ty did. For me, the most impressive thing Ty did was have the loyalty of Kiefer, and the willingness to betray Jed, and just the overall sort of like winning over of Tara, of Brayden. I guess that's not just Kiefer, but Tara, Brayden, Jed, Beth, like all of the people that he individually won over to his side. That social element of his game, I think, was the most impressive part of it, and that's why I think he never touched the block. But if I just said, well, guys, Ty never touched the block, 7 easy, I don't think that's a very compelling argument, personally.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that like, and I think another part of the argument that people give is like, well, he's only one of 2 players to never touch the block because he won the final HOH. But for me, like, I don't think about that final HOH as being like a real, like, touch the block situation, since they literally only can pick those people. It's not like a feat. If you don't win the competition, you're going to have to go on the block. It's not like you avoided the block due to your strategy, due to your position in the game. You were able to not be nominated. Like, I think like, yeah, sure, it's impressive, but I don't think of it as any different than like Derek losing the final HOH and being put on the block, but really the whole season he wasn't on the block.
Jason and Danielle as well, like they were the first to do it.
That's why I've been getting messages and stuff saying like, well, you said there might have been 6 players in the history of Big Brother that have never been nominated or that didn't get nominated during their season. And it's like, I stand by that. Like, that's true. Like, I do think that there is more than just the two players, Cody and Ty, to not be put on the block just because they won the final HOH. I don't think that makes it any different than Derek's situation or Danielle or Jason or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like we'll talk about these points, just as much as I'm sure most people would, maybe less, but at the end of the day, like, do I think that not touching the block is impressive? Sure, absolutely. I also think that winning 6 competitions is impressive. Do I think that, like, I put as much value specifically on statistics over anything else? No. If you tell me this person won 6 competitions, I'm gonna be like, great. Does that actually mean they're the best at competitions, or does it mean that they won 6 competitions? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, so for me, it's about more than just the statistics, the raw statistics. I think that it's absolutely like a very cool thing. Obviously, we know that Anthony is another player that, like, barring the final 3, never got nominated. For me, Anthony's never nominated was a little bit more impressive than Ty's never nominated, even though he technically was nominated the final 3, because Anthony had so much more control over the game and actively never was in a situation where it was even conceivable that he would be nominated, right? So to me, it's about how it happens more so than it happening. So that's also probably going to influence how often I talk about it.
Totally.
So anyway, I also asked what exact position in the Big Brother Canada winner rankings would you place Ty? And so the audience said number 4. Number 4 on the rankings. About 30% said number 4, which is, I guess top half, bottom of the top half.
Yeah, I said
which
4.
correlates to the middle tier, right? I guess if you're substituting that in. Now, this one this one again was a little weird. 3 people said Ty was the worst winner. 5 people put him in 8th place.
Huh. 8. I mean.
Wait, that means that, yeah. So 5. Do they not understand that there's only 8 winners?
I wonder if this is because people saw the first question and they calculated it with all of the seasons, including US. And then the second question, they were like, okay, bottom of Canada, but not bottom of US.
That's true. That's true. Okay, we'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah. Second place was 3rd place. And then number 5. So 4, 3, 5, 2, 6, 1, 7, 8 was the order of.
Those numbers are lost on me.
Yeah. Here are some numbers that might be interesting to you. So I was just calculating this for the podcast. This is what I was doing all day today because I was looking up previous ratings and stuff. So I was very curious about the average rating of the season because I anticipated that this might be the lowest average rated season that we have. And now that we have given our final ratings, I can tell you that it is, in fact, the lowest rated cast that we have seen since we have started rating casts. So the top rated cast was in the postseason ratings. These are postseason ratings. Was Big Brother 22 All Stars. An average of 5.6 was the rating, the average rating for that cast. In second place was Big Brother 20 with a 4.7 average rating. And then tied for third was Big Brother Canada 7 and Big Brother 21. They both had a 4.3 average rating at the end of the season. And then this season now has a 3.9 average rating if we're averaging out these final ratings. But what is interesting is that I calculated out the... and look, I'm not a mathematician. So if you tell me that this is not what I think it is, then I'll look dumb. But the standard deviation, which I take to mean generally how much it deviates from the standard, meaning how close are the ratings to each other. The higher the standard deviation, the more spread out the ratings are. The smaller it is, the more concentrated they are, right? Meaning the players are more even. That is my complete amateur understanding of what this means. So the standard deviation from the seasons, this is interesting to me because I think it's somewhat indicative of the quality of the season from us at least. In Big Brother, let's see, in Big Brother Canada 7, the standard deviation was a 2.4, and that is the highest deviation. So in Big Brother Canada 7, you had the most disparity between the top and the bottom. It's how far your edges vary from the middle. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, that makes sense.
So yeah, you had a very top heavy season and a very lots of really good players, lots of really bad players. In Big Brother 20, that was the second highest deviation. That was a 2.3. And you obviously saw that in level 6 having lots of high ratings and Fauta having lots of bad ratings, or low ratings. Then in Big Brother 21, you had the third highest standard deviation of 2. So you had a lot of players who were very, very bad. And then there were some that were okay. That was Big Brother 21. And then Big Brother 22 comes next with a 1.9 as the lowest deviation thus far. There were definitely some not great players, but there weren't like awful players, or too many at least, on All Stars. And then there were a lot of good players in the committee who were all doing very well. So a lot of relatively equal play, even though it was all mostly in one alliance. And then this season, so the season average was a 3.9 for the players, but the standard deviation from these ratings that we just gave is a 1.2, significantly lower than any other season. These players were all very close to one another in terms of ability, in terms of at least how we rated them, as well as the audience. So very, very interesting there. A similar deviation throughout this season as well, as giving out the ratings during the season. It was a 1.3, where again it's normally a 2.2, 2.1. So like, again, I really feel like that is something that matters when we're talking about like how fun it is to watch the season.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like it just, having everybody on an even playing field, like even if they're bad, it just makes for more variety of things to happen. I feel like if you have a few really great players and then a bunch of really bad players, like those really great players are going to run circles around the really bad players. And that's so boring. I mean, every week you're just going to have to watch people get picked off one by one. Whereas if you have everyone kind of even, there's a lot more that can happen in a season, and it's a lot more fair. So yeah, like obviously we want to, the preference is to have the low standard deviation when there's really, really great players. So everybody in the season is really awesome. Like, yeah, obviously that'd be great. But if I have to pick between watching 4 really good players run circles around a bunch of really bad players, or have everyone be pretty just like, okay, but no really great players, I'd much prefer the just okay players than to be bored out of my mind the whole season, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree.
And just to anyone, like the standard deviation is, not meant to be scientific. It's really just like a way of like physically calculating based on the ratings, making sure that the instinct is correct. And I think that if I had asked you guys, like, what do you think was what seasons do you think had the most disparity in ratings? You probably would have listed them out in about that order, and you would have said that this one had the smallest. So the number, the thing itself doesn't matter all that much. But go ahead.
Oh no! I was just gonna say what you said, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Well, That's about what we have, but we do have one more thing to get to, and that is the stock watch. What happened with
Oh God.
stock
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
And I'm not sure. I hope that we have things ready to go, but I'm not 1,000% sure that everything will end up working here. But let's hope that we can get things updated and ready to go, and we can see what happened with the leaderboard. Now, I can tell you that we do not have the badges ready to go yet. This roundtable is taking place less than a week after the finale, so we're not 100% ready to go with everything quite yet. So I do apologize if we don't end up having a fully updated thing or badges yet. But I promise we will get some badges and we'll make sure that everything gets updated in the right way when at some point. But we'll see how it goes. While we see if this ends up being updated. Any final thoughts overall on the season, Melissa?
I think this was a really fun season. I think that I was entertained from week to week. I never really knew what was going to happen. I didn't know who was going to win. And I also think we got a really satisfying winner. I think from my perspective, I think Ty was the right person to win. I think he played a great game. I think it sets a good precedent moving forward, especially, to show that you can be ruthless. You can cut your allies. You can, just do what it takes to win and still win. You don't have to be just constantly on your toes, just being like, oh, I hope that the jury doesn't hate me. I feel like if Brayden had won, I do feel like we would get more scared players, and thank goodness we do not have scared players hopefully going into the next season, because that is not fun to have people scared of what the jury may think. So yeah, honestly, great fun season, a good cast of characters, and I think a satisfying winner.
Here we go, Phil.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought that this season delivered on basically everything that we want. We got a great, diverse cast. We got like a black final two. How great is that? And then, like you were saying, Melissa, of course, just the unpredictability, the pendulum swings, like just everything. The gameplay. I mean, there was like a lot of wild gameplay that we love to watch. Sometimes it always wasn't like the best gameplay, but it was always interesting. And so because of that, I'm just super high on this season. This is what I want out of a Big Brother season. This would be a season that I would easily recommend to someone who might want to try out Big Brother or Big Brother Canada. So yeah, I'm very happy with the way that the season turned out. And I had a lot of fun talking about it with you guys, for sure.
All right. I've said this before, of course, and I'll say it again. What a great season. So much fun throughout the entire season. Never a dull week, except for maybe the Invisible Show Trick. But it was so much fun to cover it with you guys and with the audience. I'm so pleased that we got something that was enjoyable, that felt like it mattered, and that had a good ending. There's so much happiness involved here in the whole thing. And I'm not sure that this will end up updating. So we may just have to kind of like talk through what happened here. Great season, great ending. But there's a folk tale that exists. This is a story. I don't know. Maybe you guys have heard it. It's called the Tortoise and the Hare. And in the Tortoise and the Hare, the hare, the little rabbit, the little bunny, is way faster than the tortoise. They're in a race, and the hare it runs way ahead, and it's in the lead the whole time. And then it gets very confident. It gets very it's you know what, I'm so far ahead. Let me just take a nap. Let me just not even worry. Am I even racing anyone anymore? I don't think so. They forget that they're even in a race, and then they buy a bunch of Brayden stock at the end of the whole thing.
What? Did you really?
You're devious.
Oh my goodness. Wait, okay, wait. What does this mean for me?
I'm not entirely sure, but here's the thing. I was so far in the lead for so long that I was like, okay, if I go in on Brayden, I'm gonna make over $1,000, and if I lose, if he comes in second, he's guaranteed second. I only lose like $300. That's an easy bargain. That's an easy like value bet there. Obviously, I'm gonna make that value bet. I forgot that it would be very easy to just cover my bases and make sure that I beat Melissa by like holding a certain amount or by putting a certain amount into Ty or Tara, because I literally just forgot that Melissa was even playing in the game with me. So I think because Melissa has already informed me that she went all in on Ty, I think that Melissa beat me by a couple of dollars.
Wow.
I think.
Oh my God, guys, do we understand what this means? Did Melissa win the stopwatch? Oh my God, what? Oh my God, I'd like to thank, all of the people who reminded me. This is such an honor. Every week they would remind me. Thank you. I didn't always listen. I'd like to thank Taran for being overly confident. I'd like to thank Ty for winning this for me. This is a big moment. This is huge. Wow.
Yes.
I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless.
Phil, how did you do here in the end?
I stopped. I think because I switched from Tina to Brayden early, and then I thought that like, all right, Brayden is not gonna do anything, so that kind of stopped. And then I don't think I made any money basically.
Yeah, I put everything that I had into Ty at the very end. I was like, well, I don't have that much. I will say I put one share into Brayden and one share into Tara, just in case. So that way, like, at least if I lost, there'd be some people below me, but I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. That choice could have cost you.
Well, no. Like, I couldn't have put any more into Ty.
Okay.
Like, I put everything I could into Ty, and then I had like $2 left. And I was like, well, with these $2, I can only buy Brayden or Tara. So I'll just buy one of each. So it's possible that those $2 is what did it for me. But yeah, they were like, no dollars, Tara and Brayden.
Okay, yeah. I'll try to do. If you guys have anything else to say, I'll try to do a quick calculation on here.
Taran, don't let this be a La La Land Moonlight situation where you've like awarded me. I've given my speech, and now I lose.
It's very close, regardless. I'll tell you that.
Look, if I lose, I'll be okay with it because that just means the planets have aligned in their rightful order, and everything is fine. I'm not used to winning. I don't know what it'll do to me.
Melissa's gonna come in next season, just be like, "All right, guys, you ready?"
They'll be like,
to
"I'm all
lose?"
in on this person," and then it's like they get out the first week.
All right, so you bought let's see, 428. You bought 31 shares of Ty.
Yeah, I put all I could.
Wow.
Okay, so 31 shares times 9.89, 306. Oh wow, this is very, very close.
Oh boy, guys.
Oh, La La Land Moonlight. Here we go.
This is La La Land
I didn't know that you
Moonlight.
put money into the other people.
Oh God.
Oh no, Taran got it. We'll see.
Taran's like, do you remember the ending of The Tortoise and the Hare,
Where
the hare then
turns out
runs
the
in front of
tortoise never actually crossed the finish line.
Yeah, turns out the tortoise got hit by a car before he crashed over the finish line. It's like, oh my God. Ugh.
Okay, I have 436 of Brayden.
It's okay, guys. I'll be a gracious loser.
69 cents. Oh, sorry. Messed that up.
We're just watching Taran do math.
But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, no, I
you got it.
I think you still. Oh man, I might be doing
But
the math
then
wrong.
what if I have one Brayden? Then what would I get from that? Do I get something like a half? What do you get from if you put one score in Brayden?
You're just gonna have lost half of that, which is about 70 cents, and then you'll lose the $2 that you put into Terra. So it's I think you still won. I think you still won, but
very close.
It's very close. It's a couple of dollars for sure either way.
Congrats, Melissa.
Someone needs to tell us. Yeah, thank you. Hey, look, it's close, and that's all that matters. It wasn't a blowout. We'll put it that way. I didn't do amazing, but I did just enough.
All right. Well, that's what we have for you. Stay tuned for the Big Brother 23 coverage in just probably under 2 months at this point, maybe about a month and a half.
That's so crazy. I can't believe it's coming so soon.
Yeah.
I'm like used to like it coming out now in like August and going into the fall. So it's weird. We're back to the summer season. Yeah.
We're back, baby.
Yes. So if you're a podcast only listener, you never go to the website. We'll let you know what happened when we come back for Big Brother 22. Otherwise, keep an eye on realitystockwatch.com. The leaderboard will be updated at some point. We will make sure to give a shout out to whoever did end up pulling away with the win here, and we will get those badges sorted out as well. We did this roundtable, the wrap up roundtable, a bit earlier than we normally do. It's so we're a little bit behind with the website stuff, but I hope you guys enjoyed anyway. And what a season! What a season! Full of surprises at every turn.
For sure. Definitely. I mean, honestly, like I have to say, even the finale was surprising to me because we were watching it. I thought for sure Braden's got this. He's got this because the jury just made it seem like they were giving it to him. And then all of a sudden Ty pulls through. It was shocking. I feel like every single episode or every single eviction was that way as well, where it was like, you didn't know what was coming. You didn't know who was going out the door until they were already out the door. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah. All right, then. That's what we have for you. You can, of course, find more. There will be hopefully some not exit interviews, but interviews, some deep dive potentially interviews that I will be conducting. I have not reached out to anyone yet, but I am going to start to try to reach out very soon. So hopefully we'll get some of those over the coming weeks. We'll probably also have some off-season coverage sprinkled in here and there in the short time that we have before Big Brother 23 starts. So make sure you keep an eye out for that. And then you can, of course, find me in the meantime on Twitch, twitch.tv/Taran Armstrong. I've been, hanging out, playing games and all kinds of fun stuff over there. So make sure you find me over there. There's also a dedicated kitten cam on Twitch if you want to see more of Callus. I recently took over the RHAP Instagram where you can see plenty of Callus. I also gave a tour.
That was very great
of this room. Thank you.
I really liked it. I want to do a Big Brother or an Instagram takeover, RHAP takeover.
Oh, that would be very fun.
Yeah.
We'll get some dogs. It'll be great.
Yeah, you'll get a lot of dogs.
So yeah, the story's still up there if you want to go and take a look at it. Or the stories, I should say. I don't know Instagram, but I did the thing.
It was good, Taran. Taran, don't be hard on yourself. It was very good and entertaining. You did a good job.
I appreciate that.
It's true.
So check that out. You can find me on Twitter, of course, at Armstrong Taran. And just don't be a stranger. We're still here. We'll still be making stuff for you guys. So check it out. I will absolutely tweet out when the stock watch is fully updated and everything as well. So if you're following me, you'll get that update. Phil, where can people find you?
You can follow me on twitter.com/listenupphilip, where I'll just be tweeting sometimes. And then you can also follow me on letterboxd.com/PNTJR. That's where I usually am. I'm just writing a lot of movie reviews and a lot of like TV movie reviews. And I'm still going through the Fast and Furious movies. It's a lot of fun. You can read my crazy reviews for those. That's kind of what I'll be doing, and hope I'll see you guys in the summer. Yeah.
There we go. Melissa.
You can find me on all social media at It's Melissa with 3 A's.
Here we go. 3 A's. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining us again all season long. And we will see all of you in the next season.